Hello, everybody! Bonjour, Hola, and hello, truly. It is Worldwide Tea, the international drag race podcast, where every week we critique, dissect, elevate, and celebrate everything related to the international drag race franchises. I'm Evan Sawdey from Pop Matters.
I'm Gregory Ellwood from the playlist, and you may have read me in the LA Times.
And as always, it's a busy week. As we've been noting right here, we record this live on a weekly basis, so we're coming right up onto an election season right now. And the biggest thing, as we were talking about off mic a little bit earlier, during some troubling years that we had in 2016, Drag Race got a lot of people through this tough time. And I think even John Oliver in some press has even said following the election night, he watched nothing but Drag Race, and it's the one calming balm he needed. And we hope it's not a calming balm. We hope it's a piece of celebration. But either way, there is a lot of fantastic stuff to celebrate as we talk about everything with the four concurrent seasons that are currently running right now. And before we talk about any of them, the one thing we have to declare to you, the listener, and thank you everyone who has been listening, is that in this House of Love, we believe that all drag is valid and no queen ever deserves online hate. And we are American entertainment journalists, so we may not get every cultural reference, and we appreciate corrections. And most importantly, there are some truly amazing queens who are just not good at Drag Race, and we celebrate them all the same. With that said, before we dive into our many seasons that we have going on, let me just talk about real briefly, as we are the Worldwide Tea Podcast. Man, Global All Stars is the gift that just keeps giving, isn't it, Greg?
Wait, what happened now? What are you talking about?
So, well, first off, we need to celebrate Vanity Vane being recognized by Lady Gaga for her disease video,
Yes.
which is always a wonderful thing to see, too.
Hey, listen. Lady Gaga watched Global All Stars. That's all I'm going to say. It's
Right,
getting renewed. It's happening. If
exactly.
Lady
It's
Gaga
done.
watched, also I will say, as the days and goes on, as the days and weeks go on, a lot of people who you didn't think were watching Global All Stars were watching Global All Stars. So
Hmm.
if you really thought it was that bad, did you really stay till the end? Like, come on. Like, I'm
Right.
so over this. But anyway.
Exactly. And that said, it looks like since the season has aired, Queen Kong has come out with more statements saying that she's heard about Nelania mentioning something about the difficulty she had on set, and Queen Kong says that she's seen the screenshot of her tweet and that she will acknowledge it at a later time. And so it just feels like it's just strange because truly, as much as like Alyssa Edwards won the season, it's not the thing people are talking about. It remains the Nelania Queen Kong drama, Kitty's drama that's been going on there. So it's just been fascinating. I'm surprised it didn't have its own side Untucked show, because if we had that for Philippines and Savigny, then at this point it should have basically had its own, given everything going on.
Listen, Thailand, we don't even see them in the workroom. Like, who knows
My
what's going
God.
on? But I
Exactly.
will say, the only one other thing was there was Vanity Vane had a little, maybe a little bit to drink during her viewing party, which was like
Hmm.
a day or two after, I think it was the day after we recorded, or the night we recorded the last episode. And she had said something where it was misinterpreted, where she said that the fight between the notorious fight between Nelly and Queen didn't happen off camera. And that's not what Vanity meant. And I'm paraphrasing. What she meant to say is I didn't see it, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. And and Vanity did a whole like Insta story and all this stuff. So they all sort of made up, and it's fine. And Soa got a lot of fan hate for winning $60,000,
Wait,
which,
she did?
oh yeah,
Oh,
she some of it couldn't may have been on, the algorithms are strange. Sometimes we don't
yeah.
see them, especially if they're in other languages. But she felt like she got a lot of hate, but she's living the high life. And someday, my good friend Nikki Doll will congratulate Soa, or maybe she won't. Like,
I know.
and we'll just wonder what is up with that.
I will. I will say this one thing too, where is like, as much as I love Drag Race, as much as I love being a fan, as much as I love doing this podcast, it is still an intense fandom. There are
Yes.
some people who, as I think Trixie Mattel once said, as she heard from Jinx Monsoon, being a fan of Drag Race doesn't make you a fan of drag; it makes you a fan of a TV show. There's so much more that goes into it, which is why we celebrate Rue girls and non-Rue girls alike at the end of every episode.
And
But
and speaking of that, by the way, I rarely listen to the Trixie and Katya podcast, but I did see that Katya has many issues with Global All Stars. She watched every episode. So Katya also watched.
hmm
Also, a lot of these US Ru girls watch.
yeah.
They don't, they are so They are so xenophobic. They will not, no matter what other country it is, there's this thing about girls who, for a majority of girls who are on US Drag Race, they do not like to acknowledge the other countries or the other girls unless they become super popular or they like super click with them, like the ones who are
Hmm.
friends with Tace or Bimini or whatever. It's this thing, and it's it's embarrassing. It's like
Right.
some of them are too smart to be this way. But Trixie on her 3 month break, where she did not look at her phone, sure. Um, uh, she did not watch it, so Katya was explaining to her. But again, this idea that Global All Stars was just like trash, stop. Everybody
Right.
watched it. People know it's
Hmm.
probably
And
coming
as
back.
and as we discussed extensively on this podcast right here, there's some truly redeeming things that happen,
Yes.
some great looks, and quite frankly, it's the thing where just being cast on a season is sometimes enough to elevate these queens' profiles. And I think as we talk about at the start of this episode, we love celebrating them because we want these girls to be paid. These are queer artists excelling in different mediums. Sometimes they're not good at drag race, but they're going to be great designers. They're going to be great wig stylists. They're going to be great media personalities going forward. So either way, it's a celebration over here. Even as you'll see in this episode, we'll still harshly critique some queen's behaviors on set.
And just as one last tease, as we mentioned in our last podcast, sometime in December and January, where it's a little slower, we will do our Global All Star Season 2
Fan
uh,
casting.
fan casting. And maybe we'll know who's on UK versus the World 3, because I mean, that's not happening and shooting anytime in January or February, is
Not
it?
at
I mean, I can't
all.
imagine.
Yeah. Well, that said, I also at some point I also want to come us together with the list of the top 10 best international lip syncs
Yes.
because I feel like if anyone wants a good entry point into how great some of these international franchises are, I think I saw a list today from Jack Fed, a Drag Race YouTuber, who said at this point there has been 400 lip syncs across US and international franchises, which is wild. And so many of them are
Wow.
okay, some are bad, but there are so many great, memorable ones. And we've already talked about some of them already. But either way,
Yes.
we have 4 seasons that are running
Yes. Oh
concurrently.
my gosh. So
Oh
much
my
to talk
God.
about. We're
We
back up
got,
to four. No, we're
yeah.
still at four. We're
Oh
still
yeah,
at four. We
oh
have
yeah, because Global All Stars ended and Down Under just kicked up. So we also have Thailand is on its path. We also have Espanya. We also have UK going on. As always, Greg is the master at the terminal, signaling the planes in. Where are we going to first?
Well, I think we need to go to Espanya first because it's the one that's closest to the end.
Oh my
And
goodness,
also,
yes.
this episode was
Dynamite.
batshit
It was
and
dynamite. It
crazy.
really was. All right. So let's go into Down Under. Quite frankly, sorry,
No, no, not
Espana.
down under.
Yeah,
Espanya.
I just said that. I don't know why. So Espana, it's very interesting because we're getting down to really close at the end. I thought it was very interesting when Lococo, again, angling for the villain edit at times, right after the wiping away the lip sync when she says of Vampy, quote, I let her shine. I should have had a piece of the win. It's like, I don't know if that is actually true or not, but that's certainly a thing to say, certainly. But
Well,
either way, they seem to be getting along for the most part, which of course leads us to the mini challenge, which of course is our all-time favorite, puppets. Go
well,
ahead.
before we get to that, I was just going to say my favorite to tease this episode. My favorite line that I wrote down was La Nina talking about Angelita saying, "Your balls have dropped, like you're an adult." Like that is iconic. Like I want that.
Genuinely.
Put it on a t-shirt.
Right.
But yes, by the way, let's talk about the mini challenge puppets because the US seasons
Stopped.
don't do this anymore, and
I
it's one of
know.
my favorite things.
Exactly, because it's like it's a little bit of improv, it's a little bit of shade, it's a little bit of reading, and also La Nina getting Angelita was perfection. It was so goddamn great because it's the thing where, and I think I loved is that Supreme was there. And the thing is, I'm never sure how much the hosts have been aware of what is and is not going on within the workroom,
Mm.
but even if she didn't know, very clearly La Nina tuned her into Angelita's behavior very quickly, and that's why, of course, she had the longest edit out of everyone. Truth be told, I don't think anyone bombed. I think it was actually pretty okay, but it was,
Again, I think this was an example of, they always say that fans who are looking on through a negative lens always say that the show makes queens look bad. Well, let me tell you, they made Marina and Vampirtion. I'm always saying it wrong. Is it
Vampirasian.
Vampirasian look good because they literally had 3 seconds of screen time with their puppets. The
Yeah,
rest of them I thought were very good though. I
absolutely.
thought La Coco was funny and I thought La Nina was very fun.
Absolutely. And unsurprisingly, Lenina wins the mini challenge, I think very deservedly so. And she's clearly having a ball about it, which made me very happy as well. The thing I was also saying, the thing that kind of struck me this last week is I think I've determined Mariana Stars is just a genuine Muppet. Just a Muppet of a human. Just a lovely, joyful, wonderful, but
Yeah.
device. It's always so specific and so highlighted, but it's just she has endeared herself to me over a couple episodes, I will say. I know you've been rooting for her from early on, but at first I was like, I don't know, but now I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm
No,
on board.
I like Marina. I actually been Lococo is the one that I've been rooting for, and every time I'm like, oh no, I was right. She'll do something really shady, and I'm like, God damn it,
God
like
damn
that's
it.
not.
Right.
Come on, Lococo, you're better than this. Do you
Right.
think? But I will say because you brought up the voice, it's so funny you brought that up. I was talking to a friend of mine who actually watched the episode today, who is from Venezuela.
Hmm.
He's no doubt listening to this, and he hates her voice. He like it
Oh,
drives him crazy how she speaks in Spanish. And obviously, you and I do not speak Spanish, so we're not even getting that part. But I was
my
like,
two
oh,
years of
wow.
Duolingo say
Oh,
otherwise.
okay. All right.
I'm kidding. I'm not that great, but still, yeah. It's just it's so accentuated. I can't even describe it. Like I can't. I'm not sure if it's even presentational because it's still kind of how she sounds in the workroom
Yeah.
too. So it's still very interesting. But she does get paired up interestingly because as the winner of the mini challenge, Lenina goes ahead and for the selling products on a QVC style show maxi challenge gets to divide people into groups of two, two, and three. So she, for the status friar, puts herself, Chloe, and Angelita, who she just made fun of, in a group together, which is a very
Hmm.
interesting choice. The diva mattress goes to Vampy and Mariana, and the relief recliner goes to Maggie Yellow and Chloe. It is a fascinating, fascinating group altogether. Yeah, it's interesting how they get together. They start mapping things out. They all seem to be having a pretty good time on
Yep.
there. And then, of course, they get to the studio where the Javis, of course, are giving them a lot of direction and sometimes interjecting with additional direction to go.
You
How did
mean,
you feel about it?
you mean they're directing? You mean they're
Oh
actually
yeah.
directing? You mean they're not just sitting in chairs like Ross and Michelle? Like, and just giving comments? Like, that's the one thing I appreciate about the hobbies is I might not agree with what they think is funny or some of the choice, but at least they're actually directing them. Like, it would be great if the US seasons could actually have guest, judges or I don't know, whoever, like appearances by people who are going to get up and direct and not just sit in a chair and point. Like it's so crazy to me. That's not what direction is.
So I very specifically that does bring up a point to me because I remember on All Star 7, one of the best US seasons to ever exist, there was an episode in which there was like the Santa fantasy, whatever, like acting challenge that they had, but they had on the director of Zola, Janixa Bravo, come
Oh
on,
yes,
and
she was great.
she gave real ass critiques. I remember there was like the cutaway from Evie just being like, she's using words like energy and flow, and they're all relating to me directly, and it's just like, oh, you brought in an actual director to direct them. Like it was actually pretty great to see, more than a Ross Matthews or whoever else that they have
And Michelle
sometimes.
never let them do it again. Never let him do it again.
Not once, exactly. But it was actually
No.
pretty cool because it is interesting the Javis being there. They really had like,
Yeah.
we have to save the scene. They really had to interject, and they really were like enjoying some of the ideas and seeing how they played out. They were also in the workroom for a bit too to give them
Yep.
advice. Like it really, they were dropping those, those hints, those clues on how to make it successful. So it was also interesting too to see like they were laughing during the directing, they were laughing during the presentation, and then when it came to critiques, they got a lot more specific with it.
Yes, and I'm actually quite curious because the winners group was correct. Like
Hmm.
I thought they were the funniest. I can talk about how, and if we can talk about those right now, I actually thought the Coco and Megui were so funny, and every time the Coco would walk from the left side of the screen over to the right, every single time she was doing a new, I started just laughing, and they improv and they had that moment off screen, like they really thought about it, and they broke the mold on what queens think they're supposed to do on the show in terms of it. Granted, they also have the hobbies who were pushing them to do that, which is nice.
Yeah.
I actually was sort of surprised how much they didn't like La Nina, Angelita, and Chloe. Granted, I don't speak Spanish.
Hmm.
I thought they were giving the tip that if my thought was like, if this was in English and Ru saw this, Ru would laugh her ass off. This
Absolutely.
was over the top, goofy, hilarious, whatever. And then again, my aforementioned friend, who I will not mention until they ever want me to mention them on, he actually clued me in that the jokes in Spanish were not that funny. That what they were saying wasn't as funny as what they were doing, and it was flat. That if you were to hear it in Spanish, it all felt flat. And I was like, oh, okay. But then I actually thought that Van Pierson and Marina were the worst. I thought they were not good at all.
100%. I absolutely agree. And it's weird because like Marina, when she went on the drunk angle for a little bit there, like it was kind of endearing, and then it felt like it kind of got like just drawn out in the edit a little bit too. So I was a little bit surprised that she ended up being safe, truth be told, because it was like just kind of a weird vibe, and Vampy was just, I felt like, almost checked out almost entirely from it.
And one of the hobbies thought it was like the funniest thing, and I was like, okay,
what are you seeing?
What are you seeing? Because
Yeah.
the vibe of it was so flat.
Right.
But I will say the Lococo Megui, that may be one of the best improv for any season I've ever seen. It's not the
Yeah.
best, but maybe if there's a top 10 of them for any US international, that was really effing good. Like that was
Yes.
super good.
Exactly. And it was a good time too. Like especially I have the quote down, Maggie at one point telling Lococo, quote, "I used to get turned on by infomercials," to which Lococo then has to say she gets turned on by everything. So she
Yeah.
gets turned on by the magic school bus. I don't know what's wrong with her. So like as much as like there's been the campaign against Maggie offline, it's just like she is still
Yeah.
endearing. I still love her quite a bit, and especially for being like sometimes it feels like there's stunt casting. You have Sugar and Spice, you have
Mm-hmm.
like some of these former queens from like other shows or whatever. This really feels like it may have started as stunt casting, but it's really turned into like she's a real contender at this point. Like truly.
Well, I mean, I find the backlash from like the jealousy from some of the queens sort of ridiculous, and a little bit of jealousy, probably because she'd been on the show before, but she'd been doing drag at like events for like over a year. It wasn't
Right.
like she just started 2 months before and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna start doing drag," and then get on the show that I was a
Right.
pit
She
stop
still had
member
to
on.
audition. She still had to do the whole process, like
Yeah,
I'm sure other
she
pit
makes her own costumes. Like I don't
right.
know what else people want. Like anyway.
Yeah. Anyways, so anyway, we get to we go ahead and get to the category, which is Los Cuatro Elementos, which is the four elements. They have to represent the four elements of the earth in their drag somehow, which was an interesting category because some queens were like, it's a reveal for every time. Sometimes it's just I have all the elements in me right together. Were there any standout looks for you that showed up on here?
First of all, I mean, people have done blowing fire before, but La Nina freaking killed it. Like the idea she
Absolutely.
was even low. I know they judged them on groups, was just crazy. Like that look was so good. Her stage performance with it was so like
The fact that
so
Chloe
good.
was safe over her kind of blew my mind a little bit because that felt slightly
Uh,
incongruous with the group. Yeah.
exactly. I did not understand Chloe. Chloe was the one that
She had the sad wedding dress thing with the antlers. Yeah.
right. Anna, how on earth was that like with the
Four elements.
theme?
Yeah.
I don't understand. And then Anna was like, "Oh, she said it was burned. It was a little
Yeah.
burned a little bit." First of all, almost never disagree with
Our angel, Anna
our
Loking. Yeah.
Anna Locking. But I was like, Anna, wait, what are we missing here? Like you are saying this is like Alexander McQueenish. It looks unfinished.
Yeah.
It looks rough. Like I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah.
I did think that La Nina's was great.
My
I
God, yes.
thought
The Cocos was great, truly. She did an actual four
yeah.
element reveal, and each one was
Oh,
distinct and unique.
I
Absolutely. Yeah.
I actually disagreed.
Oh,
Oh
really?
no, as Violet would say, no. Um, first reveal, bad. I
Yeah.
wrote this down. Second reveal, eh. Third reveal, why? Why? And then I guess the hair flip was good.
She had a hair
Again,
flip,
you
and then
know
she
I'm a
had a
look.
pocket of mud on her. Like, my goodness,
Listen,
yeah.
I have been the one on this podcast standing Lococo, hoping she wins, and because I have a thing for redheads, I guess. But I still cannot. I was like, this is ugh. Like, and
Yeah.
Anna's like saying it's amazing. I'm like, what? Okay.
Yeah.
I
It
did.
was not a good runway overall, I would say. I was very
No,
surprised.
no, no,
And
no. I actually liked in. I liked Marina's second look. I like the red. With the
Yes.
first thing was a mess, but when she took it off to the red fiery thing, I like that.
Yeah. And honestly, Angelita's idea of going as Captain Planet, I think it was actually a great idea.
Yeah.
But it's just she had the shooty thing, she was able to do some elements. I just didn't feel like the same level. I think they accurately clocked her for just it having no direction outside of like having that stuff together. It was a good idea overall, but yeah, I saw where they were coming from.
So two really interesting things about Angelita this week is I've seen it on other international seasons before, but it's still very rare. She was wearing a Doctor Strange t-shirt
Yeah.
in the workroom, and
Unedited, unblurred.
traditionally
Yeah.
if you're on a US or even other, I think I've seen on maybe France or Italy, they blurred out if it is a something that would have to be licensed from someone else or
Hmm.
that could be like that there might be a legal issue.
Mary Poopins. Yeah.
Like WoW did not care. Clearly the Spanish, and then she comes out as, and also you're not supposed to, um, you're not allowed to make your drag, like you can't do Marvel, you can't do
Right.
DC or
You
Harry
can't do an
Potter.
existing IP.
Yes, and
Yes.
she comes out as an existing IP as Captain Planet, and I was like, wait, what is? I guess WoW legal looked the other way. Like for I don't know, but I did think that and it's comedy, so in theory in US courts it's fine. I don't know about anywhere else.
Right.
But the weird thing about it too, because I was asking a friend of mine who's a makeup artist, and I still don't have an answer. I don't think I've rarely ever seen this before. Maybe on Canada because their lighting is so bad. Can't wait for us to get to Canada to talk about the lighting that is still terrible, like in
Uh-huh.
season 6. But when they did this up half shot, like a mid shot of Angelita as Captain Planet, and I'm so sorry I'm going down this tangent, but I'm just cannot understand. Her
Right.
makeup looks rough. It looks like you can see her skin. It's like it's not good up any. It's not even up close. It's like a mid shot. And then when they're back in the workroom and she's sitting down, which by the way, there was no time to change, no time to do
Hmm.
anything else. And then it looks, the lighting there, it blows it out. She looks amazing. I've
Right.
never seen this difference in makeup before that I can remember. And then she comes back out and it looks bad again. And I'm like, but the main stage lighting on Espana is so good. What am I missing?
Right. And I think it's sometimes it's that kind of thing where I feel like some queens are just designing looks for looks and not necessarily realizing their stage lighting on there. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
they're given any sort of readout of what the light setting is, but you've seen it before where like people have like wigs with like lights in them and this is completely washed out by the stage lighting. And that stage lighting then be interpreted by the TV lens or the camera lens. And so there's another element there that sometimes gets blown away. So yeah, I'm not as surprised by that, but it was just kind of weird. Like, yeah, it looked beautiful on there and then just completely dead in effect when they hit the runway. So yeah, it was interesting. I also kind of liked Maggie's hoop skirt a little bit. I think it could have had a little bit more effort on there, but like yeah, Vampy, I hated her makeup. Yeah,
Oh no, I thought that makeup was good.
really?
I
This
thought
like
it
this
was this very to the 20s like aesthetic. I thought the makeup was good. I thought the outfit was terrible. I thought it was, I wrote it's fabric over a Kim Kardashian bodysuit. Like I
Absolutely. But man, baby, we need to get into it there because I think we've been talking about Angelita and the quote unquote villain edit on there. I don't think she's ever made more of a case for herself than just on the runway explicitly saying, no, no, I mean, it was full Alexis Michelle all over again. It was full like, no, I pointed it out to them. There was no structure. And it was a
oh,
fight that happened on the runway and carried into the workroom. And it was just, it was brutal.
but when that thing happened with Alexis Michelle, Alexis is not inherently an angry person. So it
Correct.
came out as complaining, but not like I'm furious. And this is Angelita, and this is what I realized about how she's been over the season. I don't listen, we don't know her. I don't know
Correct.
what they were like in real life. But on the show, she is projecting anger. And
Hmm.
everything she's angry about it. It's not like shade, like, oh, whatever, I'm better than them. It's
Right.
like, no, I'm right. They're wrong. And you rarely see that on Drag Race. It's so rare, and I
Hmm.
think that's I'm surprised she's made it this far because you would think that the producers would have noticed this when they were looking over the footage weeks ago, which is why we kept saying I still can't believe she's here because she's being so. But she brought drama, I guess. Like that
Yes,
worked.
she certainly did. Absolutely. And again, we've seen this before. Like, genuinely, I think about US and then an international season. Raja O'Hara, her first US season was rough. She came off as unbelievably unlikable, and she absolutely redeemed herself in the future seasons too, which was kind of a wild thing. So it's the kind of thing where I'm not necessarily holding Angelique to like this is who she is. I think some queens played up for TV, but at this point, it just seems so real. She is genuinely furious that her idea she's not being appreciated on hair. She's the oldest queen on the cast, certainly. She has the most experience, but it's just like wild. And then it's like La Nina is pretty calm in the workroom, and Chloe is just not having it. Like it is
No.
they are fighting. It's an event we haven't quite seen in Drag Race for some time.
And listen, I was canvassing all day. I've not been able to go on Twitter, so I do not know what the reaction has been from the Espanya fans, but I am very, very curious. And but the hilarious, but what's so great about this episode, and maybe the producers knew, but it didn't matter. I think it was still going to be their choice anyway, is the bottom two are Vampirchen. Oh my God, say it again. I'm so
Vampirasian.
Vampirasian. I will get it right at some point.
Yeah.
Vampirasian and Angelita are in the bottom. And we've seen Angelita lip sync.
Correct. Yes, it's Angelita.
Yeah,
Sorry, I was
Angelita are in the bottom. And I was like, oh, Angelita could beat Vamp. Like she's not, we haven't seen Vamp do anything that's proven
correct.
she's a great lip syncer. And then it happens.
Finally, at long
Finally.
last. Yeah. And it's the kind of thing where at first, because like I think about this is like in the US season where they did the It's Chocolate thing. It felt stupid until the moment it actually came through, which was actually kind of cool. And this is one where she just pulled it out, held it up. And then the thing I loved is that it wasn't like All Stars 1 where suddenly a queen has to jump on stage and jump in mid-verse. It was they stopped it. Then they asked her, why did you do it? Did you not feel confident? And she's like, I didn't want to do it for a little slip up, which I kind of think about US season 16 when Saphira Crystal drank her immunity potion and felt stupid afterwards. Like, it was interesting that the judges were like, why did you feel the need to do that? But either way, it was a one-time thing. It happened. La Nina came in.
But I will say, if you're only experiencing the seasons, because I know some of my friends who are listening to this have not really watched Espana and are only going through us, there was a token that each of the queens, sort of like the chocolate bar on the US season, where if they got it was a secret, it was in a wrapping, nobody opened it, nobody got to show it to the other queens. And in theory, the hosts and producers, wink, wink, didn't know. But every week they've done this 10-second timer where the other queen who is low, if one of the two in the bottom pull out the token, the queen token, then they can drop out of the lip sync. They're basically safe. And the other queen that was low, they have to come in and do the lip sync. So that happened. And now we have seen our third La Nina she wasn't in the bottom and she had to lip sync for her life 3 times. And that is wild.
Yes.
But I also thought she was ready for it, and she sort of killed it, and she killed Angelita. And Angelita, for someone who I think when she had lip synced before, had done a pretty good job. If I'm wrong, hadn't she lip synced?
Yeah, she had 2 in a row and she survived both. Yeah.
She focused so much on La Nina. She like chopped her, she like tied her arm behind her back. Like she made the attention not be about her, but be about La Nina. It was a horrible strategy. You could tell everything that had happened in the episode was in her head, and she's just sort of like lost it.
Right. She was grabbing onto the lights. She was almost about to break some of the lights that were backstage, which isn't necessarily a good move. Like she was trying a couple things, but also La Nina, I gotta be honest, like she's turned like the lip sync she did last week with Chloe that saved them both. She cleared Chloe very easily, but it was fantastic. And here she was not going to. She was brought in. She described herself in the interview room as being tired, but once again delivered comedy. She did stuff we hadn't seen before, and it's the kind of thing where in that moment I was like, I love La Nina. Like
I
I've
love La
liked her.
Nina.
I've liked her all season, but it's just like God. Like you kind of forget that Drag Race is a multifaceted thing. They're obviously the easiest thing for a lot of people to do is they can win challenges and find their way in. But there's some queens who win it in the interview room, and there's some queens who win it via lip sync too. At this point, it's the kind of thing where it's like, man, you don't want her to lip sync, but maybe you do because she's so fucking good at it that she just makes it such a show every time. And it's weird because as tired as she says she was, there's such joy in what she does. This sense of fun, the sense of discovery when she's doing a backbend kind of thing and waving her head with the sunglasses, and you could see Anna kind of imitating it. Like it was like, God, she really has it. Like she has this presence to her where it's like, I don't know. Like I feel bad for her being in the lip sync 3 times now at this point, but it's just like I kind of want her to win because she's just so entertaining. She's giving an element that she doesn't always give to a challenge, and it's just great to see.
And and we talked a lot about this episode because it was so good. But two other
Hmm.
quick things about it. One, the reaction of the Javis and Supreme to when Vamp pulls out the Queen icon. That's Emmy Award winning television right there.
Yeah.
International Emmy Award
Hmm.
and editing too, like so well edited, so good. Also, this is also the first Megui and Lococo both won. There wasn't two winners. It
Yeah.
was a double win. So Megui has a win.
Her
And
second.
oh, wait, Megui has two?
Yeah, after the talent show when she did the Beyonce
Oh
style
my
number and she
gosh.
won. Yeah. So it's her
Oh,
second
she
one
has two
now.
wins.
Yeah.
Um, she's the front runner. Like wow, I wonder how long that's gonna last.
Yeah.
Um, but I did think it was absolutely hilarious that they not only did they get a little cash prize, but they got sex toys,
Yeah.
which even Holland didn't do that. Like even Amsterdam, Mr. B's, sponsored Drag Race Holland never gave away sex toys. So I thought that was sort of fun and different and sort of cool.
Well, listen, it's no penis cake by Dick Waffle, but
Yep.
we'll certainly take it. I just really briefly I just pulled up the listing that they have on the Drag Race wiki, and every queen has one win, except for the fact that Vampirasian and Marnia Stars are quote high team for being high in the Girl Group Challenge, and now Mega Yellow has high team as well, but not the official win, at least according
No,
to the way
no.
they're calculating it.
No.
Right,
They were both wins. That's
right.
wrong.
I know,
No,
but
no,
only
no.
one of them got that 2,500 euro prize. So, which is
Oh, I missed that. I'm wrong. I thought they both won. I thought they both won the cash.
yeah, nope. It was just Lococo. So they both won the free sex toy, the
Oh.
$1,000 worth of sex toys, and then Lococo won the actual cash, her first actual win.
Oh yeah. So basically, no one has more than one win.
Correct.
That's shady. That is so shady
That
on
is
Espanya
shady,
producers.
and
They
it's
just want
also
there to be one. They want to keep it as even as possible.
wild because we are now episode 8, and there is genuinely no front runner, which is
But you know
kind
what?
of crazy.
It is crazy. But someone was bringing this up to me. The criticism of Spain for all these years has been that they've always had a front runner you knew who was winning from like 3 episodes in. Whether it was Sethless, whether it was Carmen Ferrara, whether it was
Hmm.
um Paquita, Paquita,
Hmm.
Paquita,
Petita.
Petita, and then the one I always forget, the second season,
Sharon.
Sharon. Sharon, I bless Sharon. I'm sorry, I just always, but
Yeah.
Sharon was like, you were 2 episodes in and like, well, she's winning. Like
Yeah.
it was sort of
Honestly,
obvious.
kind of same with All Stars Drag Set List too. Like it was pretty
Oh,
obvious early on.
it
Yeah.
was so obvious. So this is
Not that I was
it's
mad
almost
at
like,
all. Yeah.
well, Team Sagittaria. But I will say that the thing is this clearly feels like the producers have tried to do a correction, and it might be an overcorrection a little bit, but it's interesting that they've set this up this way. What I'm worried about is I'm curious if because there's no front runner, the heat for this season, even though it's a very good season, feels a little low. It doesn't, and maybe it's because
Mhm.
Drag Race All Stars or Espana All Stars was earlier this year. But outside of the Spain at least, it feels a little like none of these queens have massive heat around them. And I feel like Spain is at its best when it has one or two queens a season who people like love and are like clamoring for.
Absolutely. And it's weird because like I still feel like there are queens who are like, but also to their credit, it is story production that I think is coming through. But most importantly, and I think kind of a theme for this week, we were talking about a little bit last week, but I think we just need to talk about overall, I think one of the things that Greg and I are a little bit more insidery, I think maybe than a couple other people here, because a lot of people talk about the queens, we talk about the editing, we talk about the story
Yeah.
producing over here. And I think more than anything else, I think the strength of any season, you can have a producer that comes up with the cleverest challenges, aka the last several seasons of Canada, which has had the most progressive, sometimes too progressive challenges on the market though. But it comes down to casting. It truly,
Yes.
truly does because it's that is the product that you're selling is what these queens are bringing these iconic moments and everything. And I think about like I was initially very skeptical of Canada versus the World season 2 because it's like wow all these queens who've been on here 2 3 times now it ended up working out pretty great because like they knew what made good television. It was actually
Yeah.
kind of a good group. Meanwhile, I think about Canada season 4, which had like it had a top four of it was Aurora Matrix and it was Venus and it was Near Enough and it was the kind of thing where it's like I like all these queens. I don't love these queens in the same way. So it's just kind of a mixed bag. And here is the thing where I feel like it's good casting that's this season on here. I'm not sure if there's like a true drag race breakout international star that's here, but I'm still very much enjoying the season. If I'm being brutally honest, I'd say of all the seasons we're talking about, this might be my favorite one that's currently airing right now.
Oh no, I think it's I think I agree. Especially for what's airing right now. I mean that's a low bar right now, Evan.
Hmm.
But I do think La Nina has a shot to be if La
Yeah.
Nina doesn't win this season, her English is so if she goes on a UK versus the world or she
Uh,
goes on Global All Stars, she could really break
she
out.
will not be sent home in the lip sync for
No,
a little bit, rest assured.
no,
So either
not
way,
at all.
so I honestly I think I may have mentioned it last week, but my current want to win is La Nina at this point, which is I know probably very low probability, but she really won me over this last time.
I want La Nina or La Coco to win, but again, I love redheads, so I'm just
Absolutely.
biased.
Right. Well, speaking, are there any Red Hoods in the next country that we're going to?
It, are there redheads in the next country we're going to? I think there's two of them. We're going to Drag Race UK, which carries on and which Kamala's and carries on or whatever the hell that was. So this week on Drag Race UK was the Snatch Game.
Oh my God. And
But
you know what? We talked about it before. Sometimes there's not as good reading challenges and great snatch games, and the tradition kind of continues.
The reading challenge was fine. Although I
Mhm.
actually sort of was like, when I was watching and I was sort of giggling at some of them, I was like, oh, maybe my expectations are just so low that like it's okay. But you got a good sense of like who was funny and who wasn't. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember who won it again. I don't even
It
remember.
was Lavoie. She
Oh,
had
of
the most
course.
reads that aired,
My
which is always
fave.
your way of telling. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Um
also, I will say, actually, the funniest line for me was actually when they came back post elimination, and Octavia clears out the wipes the mirror, and then says, "quote I look like Danny Beard from Wish," which is like, you know, how can you read anybody if you can't read yourself? She truly that was actually
yes,
a pretty good line. I was gonna give her
that
credit
was
for
a good
that.
one.
Yeah. But yeah,
So
it's a cute little reading challenge. It's nice, and then of course it comes to Snatch Game. It looks like at this point there's now a couple people that are going to be potentially doing Queen Victoria. Oh my God! Okay, we need to stop for a second. What the fuck happened with this Snatch Game? Truth be told, because I did have a good time, but now we have characters doing characters within themselves, or like people masquerading as one thing over another. We have the Welsh Dragon doing Michael Jackson at one point. We have Nadine Coyle pretending to be Julie Andrews. We have Sammy the Child being Rihanna. It was the kind of, I will say, if I'm just going to be honest right here, the second that they allowed queens to start doing imaginary characters, I think was a bad decision for Snatch Game. And I kind of wish that they stopped doing that because it just kind of took it to a surreal place.
I agree. I'm pretty sure it's not the first time it's been done. I
Oh
feel
no,
like
not
it's
at
been
all.
done in a couple of seasons. I I thought I felt bad for I think I felt bad for Relisa because this is clearly a case of queens getting in their own heads, and
Absolutely.
it's one of those things where they have it so ingrained by their friends or themselves, having watched the show for so many years, especially a Rue season. Like you need to make Rue laugh, and if Rue is telling you to do this, you do it. And sometimes Rue tells people to do things, and then she doesn't like it. So you have to be more cognizant of it. I think Relisa should have been safer and
Hmm.
just done whatever she was going to do for Rihanna. And I think that would have worked better or worked better.
Right.
I thought that I'll be quite honest. I thought Charity won the Snatch Game. I thought she was the funniest out of all of them. I was
She
shocked
pivoted
she
a lot. Yeah, she
yeah
was ready to go. Yeah.
she seemed to make Rue laugh the most.
Hmm.
And I was sort of and she made the judges laugh the most. So I was shocked when she was just high. And I'll be really honest, I and again, they're clearly the two front runners. Like people are already saying, double crowning for Lavoie and Kieran. Like, dear God,
If you didn't
spare
do it with
us.
Danny Beard and Cheddar Gorgeous, that's not
They're
going to
not doing
happen
it for
this
this.
time. Sorry.
But I'm sorry, and I know I'm coming off as a Lavoie hater. That's the third best Liza on any franchise. Like it was not that funny. She did the same thing with the leg. Didn't Hanaconda do that with the fake leg? Am I
Yes,
not
I
crazy?
believe she did. And then let's
And
also not forget another high placement that didn't win, but Scarlett Bobo from season one of Canada also did Liza. So it's just like it's just if everyone fails at doing Beyonce on Snatch Game, everyone gets a high placement for doing Liza at some point. Like it's just the thing.
And listen, I know that there are so many seasons, and I know that not every queen watches all the other seasons or realizes
Hmm.
what's been done on Snatch Game. But on the English ones, it's not English language ones, it's not that hard to find out.
Right.
And my thing is like, WoW needs to just put down the gauntlet and say, if someone has won a Snatch Game in a Rue season for playing a certain character, you are not allowed to play that character. Like,
The
it's
dream.
just not fair for the audience. It's not fair. Like, I am sure Lavoie could have done another character and still won and maybe even been
Absolutely.
better.
Absolutely.
And
She's
that's the
smart
first,
enough. She's
yeah.
snappy enough. Absolutely. Yes.
And also, I thought Kieran. First of all, one of the things that I've learned about Kieran and why I've become a fan is not only is she a great runway queen, not only is she a great performer, she's an actor. Like she knows how to act, and her performance as Elvis was great. I don't know if it was funny, but I thought it was great. And again, my problem with it's Snatch Game. It's supposed to be funny. The funniest queen didn't win, and
Mhm.
why? Like, what would have ruined the track records of Lavoie and like Kieran if you didn't have them win this? I just it didn't make sense to me. I just thought it was weird. I also thought like them giving all this praise to Lil for her Queen Victoria.
Queen Victoria.
It was fine.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think it was great. I thought it was okay.
Hmm.
I just thought there was some weird judging in that respect sort of
Right.
going on this
I
week.
also I also feel like Marmalade did the most safe performance as Marie Antoinette. She was
Yeah.
funny enough. Absolutely. Although I think honestly, if I'm being honest, like it was such an off the cuff thing, but I think my favorite moment from the entire thing was Kyron as Elvis just looking at Octavia as the Welsh dragon, just being like, "You look like bacon." I thought that was it was just a weird little side moment. It just felt so true to what was going on. But yeah, and obviously the interplay between Kyron and Lavoie. We talked about it last week how there's very much this. They clearly know they're the front runners, and so they're really
Mhm.
connecting right there, and that really played into Snatch Game because they got to play off of each other quite well too. So which led.
Also, they. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say they don't fear any of the other queens. Like they don't fear even Marvel. They don't.
They
They
do
fear each other
not.
maybe, but
Right.
they're like, oh no, you. They're like, let's go, you and me together. We're making it to the end, and we'll
Yeah.
figure it out.
Like
Yeah.
at this point, I'm confident Marmalade is going to be in the top three with them, and I'm very excited about that. And she is not going to win, and that is very okay. But that said, Miss Coco Peru.
Oh my gosh. I. How could I forget?
How could
I
you
no.
possibly forget?
I I applaud Chanel for thinking a little bit out the box.
Mhm.
It's not only is she doing a queen who isn't a Rue girl queen, she's not like doing
Correct.
Alaska or what other queens have been
Alyssa
done?
Edwards,
Or Alyssa Edwards.
Coca
Someone did
Montrese.
Sharon, used to do Sharon Needles before she
Hmm.
got canceled.
Yeah,
Um
that was
I
Max.
I was Max, yeah. Uh
Woo!
poor Max.
I know.
I there was a lot to unpack here. So, from what I understand, and I may be speaking out of school, I don't think they're enemies, but I don't think Rue is actually like, I don't think Rue and Coco are like friendly or like, they're definitely not close. And they
Yeah.
probably respect each other a little bit, but they're definitely on like New York queens who are in New York at the same time, who are on
Hmm.
very different wavelengths. Coco
Right.
Peru was not a club queen. Like, she was always doing theater stuff. She was doing comedy. She would show up at like gay bars and stuff, but she was not doing what Rue was doing. And they were very different, but they also were getting a lot of attention at the same time
Hmm.
in the early 90s for different reasons. And I think there was a little bit of competitiveness with them, but Coco is not a competitive person. Like,
Right.
whatever. But for her to pick that, I was like, I cringed. I was like, it's almost like her picking, and this is one person listening to this podcast will understand this. That would be like her picking Kevin Aviance. Kevin and Rue did not get along for decades, because they were super competitive at the same time. And they had very different careers. But if you did Kevin Aviance on Drag Race US, you're going home. Like Rue would never say that, but no. So
Yeah.
I guess my take was I thought it was Chanel sort of stuck her foot in her mouth without knowing it.
Yeah.
And then she didn't sound like Coco. She sounded British. Like, you can't do Coco and sound British. Like, end of story. Like, that's
Yeah.
it.
That said, if I was ever on Snatch Game, I'll be honest, my character would probably be Santino Rice. If I think that I'm not sure how it would go
But
down.
you know what? Rue would think that was funny.
You know,
Rue,
Rue. Yeah, I think there's
no,
a lot
Rue
we
and
could
Michelle would
do.
totally think that's funny.
Right.
If
So,
someone did Merle Ginsburg, they
oh
would
my
think it was funny.
God. Yes, there's so much to work with there. Oh, it's
Yes.
so easy. But the all things said, for the Snatch Game being, we know who the highlights are pretty quickly. The runway of Doctor Who is she? What a great concept. And for the record, even if she did okay in Snatch Game, Lil's Bobby Dazzler comb over head with the blue dress thing, I loved that. I loved that so much. It was so fun.
You know what? So here's my problem with this
Okay.
runway. There was some great stuff. Kieran's thing was really good.
Television thing, yeah.
Television thing was really good. Really smart. It considering Doctor Who is like Star Wars in the UK. Like it's hard to like grow up there without having it ingrained into pop culture there. This was the least Doctor Who like runway you could possibly have had.
Right.
It was
And
like
that, right.
it was
And
like
that's the thing.
Madonna in kimonos. It was just like, what is
Mhm.
going on here?
Yeah. And that's like low key. Lil and Kyron, I thought actually probably got the
Yeah.
closest to the assignment because Charity, well, I don't know what the fuck she was wearing, but it was basically like almost a blue cone head thing. It was the one thing where like actually me and my husband were watching it, and it was the kind of thing where as soon as we saw it, like, yeah, she did pretty good in the challenge. She made Rue laugh a lot. And as soon as we saw that outfit, like, oh baby, you're not winning this week, are you? Like it was
No.
the kind of it was like just a thing where the sometimes especially not in the US, but especially in international seasons, it always feels like the runway is judged as part of the
Yeah.
metric overall. And I just knew at that moment it was not going to happen for Sweet Charity
I
there.
actually thought if this was the US or Canada, Charity would have won. Like that
Yes, I
if
yes,
it,
yes, yes, I would
but
agree.
not here.
And then Chanel with her weird slither army thing with the two red flappy arms that were just individual fingernails.
You mean her Willow Pill inspired, like Willow Pill inspired by Evie Oddly inspired, like they're
So
just riffing on each other.
And here's the thing at this point too, like I think as we've determined, both with any international queen doing this show format, you can have a great outfit, but there's also selling it too. And I think low key, I don't think I really had a problem with Chanel's outfit, but then she just kind of kicked off and had this kind of like fairy walk towards it that just felt incongruous with
Mhm.
everything else that was going on. It seemed like she didn't really believe in it too. So it's the kind of thing where like I feel like every thing that could be against her really kind of played out in that end.
I thought though that Marmalade and Relisa had great outfits.
Oh
I
my
thought
God,
they were
I
great. And I
Marmalade's
felt
at
bad that Relisa had to like lip sync in that outfit because it was not meant for lip syncing and it was sort of
right.
stunning.
And barefoot too, which is always a bold thing to happen, which is
Yeah.
traditionally not welcome on roost stages. But I mean, when you started out that way, that was one thing. And initially, when I saw Marmalade's look, I'm like, oh, this is just very regal. But then I saw the timepieces and I saw the other
Hmm.
things. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, you
It's
pulled
really
it off.
good.
Yeah.
She
So
actually did think a little bit more about what Doctor Who was, but it wasn't as good as Kieran or
absolutely.
Lilith.
Yeah. So the tops were Kyron, Lavoie, and Chara. The bottoms were Octavia, Chanel, and Relisa. I I feel pretty okay with that.
Relisa knew she was in the bottom like the
Right.
second she came in the next day. Like there
Yeah,
was no drama. She knew she was ready for it.
she knew she was at the bottom when they said the maxi challenge was Snatch Game this week.
Yeah.
Like she was fully honest about that. But the
But you know
winner,
what? You know what? Relisa doesn't care. You know
right?
why? Because she just opened for Becky Hill on all of Becky Hill's UK tour dates. And in fact, I'm bummed. I'm going to go see Becky Hill this week in LA on Friday. Tickets are still available. It's at the Novo. If you want to celebrate something from Tuesday, if something good happens, you want to go see Becky Hill. It's inexpensive. It's inexpensive, LA. Come see my girl. Um, but she's fine. Like this show is exposure for her. The more it goes on, I'm like, oh, she doesn't care about winning. This is
Right.
just another exposure to like get your career. She wants to be Taste. She wants to like have a whole other lane. She doesn't care about the winning is not important to her. And that's
Right.
okay, by the way. There's nothing wrong with it.
You can win Drag Race without winning Drag Race, as we've seen many times before.
Yes.
Caramel's doing just fine, rest assured.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, so either way, it goes to a double win. It is initially announced as Lavoie, and then Kyron is announced as the second one. I don't think anyone's really mad about that. It feels about right.
I would have honestly loved if they had said Kieran first just to see the reaction.
I think that would have
I feel
been
like that
great.
would have been better television, but No, it was yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, the second they said La Voix, I'm like, oh, it's a tie, and yep,
Yeah.
it's a tie. Like,
Yeah.
it
And
was
then, of
obvious.
course, the lip sync is Relecia versus Chanel to something kind of Oh by Girls Aloud.
All right, so I am a Girls Aloud fan. One of my disappointments this past year is that I could not find a way to go see them perform live on their tour, which was I think it was the U.S. and Paris, like 2 European dates, or if it was even that. And they did not come there to the US. They never will. But I'm a fan of them. I love that song. It is such a good song. It's such a good lip sync song. And I am mad at the producers that the week that the two finalists are in the most cumbersome outfits possible, that's the week you decide to use this lip sync. Like, why? Like, because you thought Releasa would still do something amazing and tear her like, $20,000 dress off? Like, I was so disappointed. It was very similar to when we talked to the song used for Down Race Down Under,
Mhm.
Drag Race Down Under, and that lip sync. It's just like sometimes they make the worst choices because they're like, oh no, it's the song, it'll get everyone excited.
Right.
No.
And I think it's the thing where, as people pointed out to me before, traditionally, especially the first episode of the season, you want that first lip sync to be iconic. And when it comes to All Stars, it's pretty easy. Normally, it's a
Yep.
top two or lip sync assassin or something like that. There's some really great choices that you can make there. And usually it's been pretty good, if I'm being fair. And this was not. It was fine. Releasa pretty much cleared Chanel. Chanel bought certainly, but it was Releasa's to win. So I was
Oh, I thought
unsurprised by
Chanel thought she was going home the second the lip sync. I think yeah. She
yeah.
was
Well,
really sad in the workroom. She was very upset.
she had to
I
have a pep
mean,
talk. Yeah. I'm here
also,
for me. Yeah.
and I mean, we're not spoiling it. She went home
Yeah.
finally, and I saw she did an interview. There's a bunch of like post UK interviews that you can always find on YouTube. They're very easy to find. Every week they like have the BBC sets up interviews with these mostly gay YouTube outlets to for the queens. And she's like, I'm not plain Jane. I was never that mean. I'm like, girl, please. You wish you were plain Jane.
I mean, truth be told. That said, I thought it was a good episode. My
Good.
current,
Fine.
my opinion remains unchanged. I want Kyron Thrax to win the season. How about you?
Yes, but also I was just going to give you credit. You have also said that this year, almost outside of the US seasons, the Snatch games have been consistently good.
Yeah, and it's like it's one of my favorite traditions because y'all, when there's a bad Snatch game, you could tell. And as much
Yeah.
as we can riff on the American seasons, there's been some bad international Snatch games,
Yeah.
rest assured. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's my favorite kind of trend to have happen. But yeah, overall, I'm still enjoying it. It's my second favorite season, running next to Espanya. Hey, let's just
What
keep
could be
going
your
down the
third?
list. I
What
don't
could be your
know.
third? I can't only guess. You tell
Yeah.
me. I'm gonna
Well,
let you pick.
okay, well, I think at this point we have to do it. We have to fly all the way over to Thailand. Speaking of casting, it's I've been just rolling over this in my head over and over again as I watch this episode, where it's just like they cast a bunch of younger queens. I think the oldest queen is in her mid-30s, but
Yeah.
it's just young queens, and it's rough too because speaking of people being correct, you were right. Art Aria is sadly not with us
Yep.
anymore.
Gone.
We had moved on. And it's the thing where ultimately, if I'm kind of just being honest, and we're jumping ahead a little bit, but I don't love the panel. Low key, this
Mm-mm.
was the episode where I do think Pangina gave some of the most forceful and constructive critiques that she's ever given, but it just feels like the other people, I'm not getting the vibe off them of just being the supportive kind of drag fans that you would expect.
To be honest, I thought Pangina was mean. I thought Pangina borderline on being
Yeah,
too critical
yeah,
mean. I was trying to think of like another, you know, Priscilla on Italia has had her moments, but it's
yes,
very spread out. Like it would not be. I think there was in season two, she got a lot of criticism because maybe there was like 2 episodes in a row. She was very frustrated with one queen and she like gave that same criticism. I can't remember who it was for, but I remember like there was a backlash against her
yeah.
because of that, which I thought was
Well,
unfair. And then by season three, she like realized, nope. She's like, nope, I'm pulling out. I'm the host. Also, in the first 2 seasons, it was this weird thing where she was, I don't want to go down a Talia hole, but like she wasn't, they didn't let her just be the host. It was like her and Tomasa and the other girl. It was like they kept rotating like sort of Canada. And it was like
yeah.
you're judges and hosts. And then by the third season, it was like, nope, you're the host. and she sort of pulled back and didn't do. I feel like Pangina is the host, but she has not realized she can't be this tough with them. But I think she's frustrated and
Mm-hmm.
doing her best to hide it. But also, I was talking to a friend who said, because I've not watched the Thailand seasons and you have, is that actually on the Thailand seasons, I heard she was often the bad cop and Art was the good cop. Like that was now, granted, I
The
haven't seen
vibe.
this. I'm only hearing this
Right.
from friends who watched it. And please, please email us at worldwide tpodcast at gmail.com if you disagree. We're waiting for our first email. We know
It will
you're
happen. It will
listening.
happen.
Well, it
Yeah.
will happen. But I am very frustrated with that. But beyond the panel, we are 3 episodes in, and the sound is still terrible.
It is
And
ADR City, baby.
and it's not just terrible. It's beyond. It's the inconsistency of it. Like it's sometimes it's a corner of the workroom. Sometimes it's the main stage. Sometimes it's during a challenge. I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand how, someone at World of Wonder didn't flag this back in LA when they got because they get the dailies. Someone must be
Mm-hmm.
watching them. It's very strange to me. And I can only imagine. I was talking to, I was like, I don't understand. How is Pangina going to sell this season moving forward?
Right.
Like, how does she hype up a four after we've gone through this? Like, what's the spin? And I'm not blaming Pangina did not produce the season. This is
Correct.
not her fault. But her
Correct.
dream was to bring this back, and it is flailing as a
Mm-hmm.
season. And you don't even have like Thai fans like super excited about it. And you're just like, people had such high expectations.
Mm-hmm.
I understand but the show was a different incarnation, but it's so far from what it was before that it feels like Philippines, like the ugly step sister of Philippines.
1,000%. Absolutely. And low key, if we're being honest, the queens kind of feel that way too, because
Yeah.
at the start of the episode when they get back, ZP talks about the lip sync with Sriracha and being like, if Sriracha wanted to stay, she would have fought like it, or paraphrasing basically. But then Godlin talks about her critique, saying that for a moment, I wanted to quit drag. Like, that's a fucking insane thing to say, much less to broadcast. To basically say that, yeah, the critiques were so harsh, I kind of questioned this as my profession, which was wild to me. But that's just kind of like the pressure that they're under. It's strange because it feels like the queens feel pretty connected. They're rubbing their butts together, shouting season
Yeah.
3 every time that they can. And they're like when Shotgun comes in, they correct her ducky walk. Like there's fun that's happening there, but it just feels incongruous. Meanwhile, oh my God. By the way, Pangina's in the workroom right now. Ignore the fact that she has a giant propeller behind her, just a spinning. We got that going on right now. But yeah, it was also interesting because they started out with a challenge that they did in Philippines, which was the rap challenge, the mini challenge, which was the old G, not OG, old G, fierce rapper. Could have been a
And it was so
montage,
long.
could have been an email.
So long.
It went so long. They do
So
not need to
long.
show every queen doing it, but our two winners were Benze Diva and Frankie Wonga. Great. Love it. Let's never speak of this again. They
Yeah.
get divided into two teams. Frankie Wonga picks Spicy Sunshine, Godland, and Shotgun and Caramite for her team for the girl group challenge. Benze Diva picks Gigi Ferocious, ZP, Nane Safira, and Saram Prushi for her team. Frankie's team goes under the name The Mean Gays, and Benze Diva goes under the Golden Flowers, which is such a thing to say with my mouth. But yeah, it's the girl group challenge. They have a song called "Sip Sip Sip." With the person that's helping them out in the studio is Bad Mixie. The studio part's kind of fun. Honestly, the song's kind of fun too, if I'm being honest.
I actually, after just saying the whole season was flailing, I actually thought the song was a fucking bop. Like I was
Yeah,
like, this is good. I don't know if their verses were good, but I thought the
agreed.
song itself was
Absolutely.
actually quite good.
Honestly, if we're talking about good Snatch games, I also thought Dead or Alive from the UK Girl Group Challenge, I thought that was pretty good too. Like, I'm not sure what's going on, but these non-Leland, these
No,
non-Leland
shh.
songs.
He's gonna see you at High Tops and he's gonna throw something at you. Don't say this.
It's okay. He doesn't know me yet. He'll get there.
He doesn't know.
But yeah, Sip 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 is the song. They do it's weird. They do a little bit of choreography. They do the song. They get to the stage, and let me tell you, some strange things happen in this performance. Well, first off, we also have to talk about during the recording sessions, Godland improvises the line, "quote I'll make you come without a hand," which again. Wonderful thing to broadcast. Bless you, you tiny, tiny nymph of a human. Uh, it's still like overall a good time, but man, when they get on the stage, it gets weird. It gets weird when they're on stage, let me tell you. Siam has some strange choreo. Benze inexplicably has some of the best makeup she's ever had on. Shotgun has some of the worst makeup she's ever had on. And Spicy Sunshine, somehow, with the verse that she recorded, somehow forgets to lip sync a single word. And it's like, oh my God, is this Gothy Ken doll 2.0 happening all over again? It's just a surreal thing to witness because she's doing the splits and things, but her mouth is just the whole time. It's weird. It's strange. It is a bizarre experience.
I will say this. I thought that Pangina and the judges, I don't know if Pangina is picking or if the judges are voting. I'm sort of confused on how that's all working. I thought she had a number of choices for the bottom queens. I actually didn't think Kara Might was in the bottom. I was sort of like, they just want to send her home. I don't know why.
Right.
And she seemed like she knew that too. But then also, wait, am I not wrong? Didn't they all like say who should go home this week?
Yes, they
And they
did.
all
And
said
everyone
her.
said Kara Might, except for Shotgun. Or one Kara Might said Shotgun, and no one
And
said Spicy Sunshine.
and I was like, and wait, was she difficult in their group? I'm trying to remember.
I
Like
didn't
I
think so. They just seemed to
no,
like have a feeling about the way that she presented on stage, and just she didn't have the
they
most to
don't.
bring. That was really it.
Yeah, they don't like her. And
Yeah.
I was sort of like I felt bad. I didn't feel like she should have been in the bottom. I thought Shotgun should have been in the bottom. And as someone who was super excited about Shotgun before the season started, very much an example of a queen with an incredible promo look that like is not living up to it.
Yeah. And incredible
I
entrance
thought
look too, with the giant mask and the white
yeah.
face and everything. Right. Yeah.
I did not understand why they would keep. I mean, they got criticized for it, like the white makeup, like when none of your other like drag girl group sisters or look anything like you. I just thought it was an automatic like, nope, you're in the bottom. Like this does not. And also the performance wasn't great. The lyrics weren't good. Like I was like, why were they safe? Like what am I missing? I didn't think their runway look was that like incredible to save them. I didn't. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, the
Wait, no, there
girl.
was no runway look this week.
Oh no, no, there was. I
Oh,
can't
was
believe you
there?
haven't forgot about
I'm so
the I
sorry.
don't
It's
have
so
a
hard.
sugar
It's like
daddy.
Thailand just. Oh my God. The I'm a shoot. All right, I will say this. That was a good fucking runway.
It
Like
was okay.
that runway was good.
So
That
here's
was
the thing.
like a saving grace. Like Thailand's bad, but that was like that's a good runway.
I need to highlight something. It was a good runway. I thought there were some queens who did some incredible job overall,
Yes.
especially ZP's crazy bald comb over pimp daddy
Yeah.
look. But in terms of pure camp value, after her talent show where she was a boxer that gave a haircut, Siam Prushi's runway where she was a woman, big-breasted, but her tits had Monopoly Man mustache lines on them because her tits were the Monopoly Man pimp daddy. I don't know where her mind is. I think it's all bad and it's so camp and I love it. She's just giving something. She's on another universe that doesn't make sense and I'm still here for it ultimately.
I have to say, so the queens have not given Siam, and maybe this is the episode they sort of start to realize it. They didn't give her a lot of credit at the beginning because they didn't know what she'd done in terms of drag in the
Because she was
US
from
before coming back
America,
to
right?
Thailand.
Yeah.
But she has been doing a lot of pageants, and she's been doing like international queen pageants, which is a very select thing in the US. And so she if you the more you watch her, she's super polished. She's actually almost as polished as Frankie, and she won't win. There's no way they're going to crown
No.
a queen who is now an American citizen who, even though they're from Thailand, like she'd have had to wipe the floor, and Frankie's there, so that's not happening. And also Frankie being like, safe this week after that runway. I was like, oh, you need to create a storyline. Like, okay, he can't be high. They
All
can't
that
be Y every
chest
week.
hair. Well, I mean, it was
Yeah.
they picked one girl group to win, so everyone else gets critiqued. So they had to.
Yes.
That's how they had to do it. But overall, like it was good. Like in Benze Diva had this insane fat drag king. She had sex dolls
Yeah.
attached to her. Gigi Ferocious had this big mustache pimp thing going on. Like there was a lot of fun things that were happening on
Yeah.
there. Godlin was just in an anime robe. Which felt so it's kind of strange to me.
I was
Caramite,
like, why is Godland? No, Godland was safe because she was there in the winning group, right?
right?
Yeah.
But
Like
yeah, and
Godland would have been low to me. Like that was bad.
Shotgun, I can only describe it. It was terrible Land Insider cosplay. That's the only way I can describe her weird muscle suit thing that she was wearing. And again, Kara Mike was a woman. She just held up a photo of her dead husband, which again
But
is
by the way, that's just an interpretation. Like there's
right.
no like the there it was what was the name of the runway again
It was
specifically?
I don't need a sugar daddy. I am the sugar daddy. Something like that. Yeah.
Okay, but that doesn't mean that so she may have misinterpreted it, but it was still a sugar daddy runway. Like she was still
Yes.
it was weak, but it wasn't like put you in the
The
bottom
worst thing
because it
you've
was
ever
weak.
seen.
Yeah.
It wasn't Siam Pushi's Monopoly titties. No, it was not that. I'm
I
sorry, I
like
can't
them.
get over that. It was the wildest thing I've seen in some time. Bless her heart, she's wild.
Bless her heart.
Exactly. Well, hey, the Golden Flowers they win, but again, as is the tradition, there can be a group win, but there's truly one winner, and that is ZP. And truth be told, so far in the season, ZP is essentially, I think, the only other top two we're going to see outside of Frankie Wonga, because ZP has brought some good looks. ZP is showing up for some of the challenges. I
Yeah.
think she's doing pretty good for herself.
But you could have argued in another if the last two episodes were judged differently, Frankie could have won both episodes. Like
Absolutely.
there's no Frankie was her their verse was great, the performance was they were like hard, they're starting to grade Frankie on a curve
Yeah.
because they want there to be drama and
Yes.
they don't want it to seem so like that they're gonna get there right away. But there's no it's like fait complete. Like I don't unless Frankie breaks a leg. And I'm not teasing that I know that. I'm literally it's just a joke. Like
Yeah.
they're fine. They've not broken a leg.
No. I
I
will.
did think that in the lip sync. I'm sorry if you want to go ahead. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I was just gonna say Gigi Ferocious is the only one who I think is turning it out pretty consistently there. Not like the most polished, but I think she's up there for me.
I think Godland is a little more better than Gigi. Gigi's a little messy to me, but I
Yeah.
Godland. We'll see.
Yeah.
I actually I disagreed with the lip sync.
Oh yeah.
I thought Cara won it, or it was at least a double save. I thought she was better than Spicy. I thought she emoted the song more. I really did, and I was like, oh, they just want her out. Like they just
Yeah.
want her gone, and I felt bad. I felt like she watched that episode from home and was probably really disappointed.
Yeah, and the thing is, it was actually a pretty good song by our special guest judge Bagmincy. I thought it was pretty all right, but yeah, it was definitely Spicy Sunshine is currently not having a great track record for herself. I will say that much. Because now this is the second bottom that she's been in a row, but she survived them both, so at least that's got something for her. But yeah, Kara might
Let's see how
definitely
much longer she can. Yeah, let's see how much longer she can last.
exactly. She doesn't have the best track record going so far.
Mhm.
But again, so far the wins have been, evenly distributed. No immediate hot front runner there. But again, I don't know how it's still not Frankie Wonga who's going to win in the end.
Me either. But
Yeah.
let's just, every week we turn it on and we just hope for better sound.
Absolutely. And the other thing too is that I kind of felt bad too because I was really excited for this episode because oh my God, Mama Pow's on the guest panel. But I also
Yeah.
feel like the edit really didn't give her a lot to work with on there. Like she had a couple jibes here and there, but it was kind of, like I felt like we didn't get the full Mama Pow experience that we're so used to.
Well, I do think that Mama Pow in as a out of drag is a bit different than Mama Pow completely in drag. Although
Hmm.
when Mama Pow's in the workroom, the personality does come out. I also felt like it was a little bit of Mama Pow trying not to upstage Pangina. And
Right.
also we don't know. I will just say this. I do not know this, but this feels like a season that had a lot of production issues and
Yeah.
every week something's going on. And I can just see Mama Pow, who's a television veteran, being like, I am just going to show up and not my friend is Pangina. They're legit friends. This needs to be her moment. I'm here to support. I'm going to do the
Hmm.
best I can. But I thought her critiques were like, wink, wink. I see how horrible all this is. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but she's still again and again. It was still Pangina, who it was almost the level of Jeffrey Boyer Chapman from Canada season one of like everyone had the same time, use it better maybe. Like some of those lines is really what kind of felt like were the digs that were being shot out right there, which was still wild to hear.
Wild,
Yeah.
wild.
So I just say end
Well,
it early, give it to Frankie Wага. That's my opinion.
I think this is 8 episodes. We've got 5 more to go.
All
And you
right.
know what? There's one little hope. Sometimes when a season has less queens and there's less queens to deal with, you get to know them more, and maybe their personalities will come up, and maybe they'll have a chance to shine. Maybe it's a season that gets better where there's fewer queens. That's
That
sort of
is entirely
rare, but
possible. And to be fully fair, I think we've even experienced this before. There are seasons that may have started out interesting or weird and they get better. I think Mexico season two, when they, again, as we mentioned before, I
hmm,
do feel like Tyga Brava kind of had to find her footing, and then halfway through she kind of did. I'm really excited to see what she does going forward too, now that she's a little bit more comfortable in the host
yeah,
role too. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Sometimes you just got to get rid of the negative queen too. And now that Angelita's gone out of Espanya, and we'll see what kind of stuff happens. So
yeah.
yeah.
So let's go. We have herstory before Tuesday. We have Michelle Visage as the host of Drag Race Down Under. It has returned. And once again, our global crisis. How can Art Simone's YouTube recap show have a better set than Drag Race Down Under? This set is, they think by keeping it like this that it makes it have its own character. No, 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 no. It's just bad.
It
It
looks
is so
cheap
bad.
as fuck. It every single time. And if I'm being honest, casting once again, I just out of this runway. I feel like it's the tough because like when you look at any of the top three of any design challenge from any Down Under season compared to literally any other franchise, it's
Yeah.
just apples and potatoes. It is
But
just it.
Evan, this wasn't a design challenge. They just had to bring 2 dresses. This was pre-made. These are dresses they
Ah,
brought. And
yeah.
I agree with you. I agree with you. We're not, I'm afraid of the design challenge now. But there's a level of taste already outside of 2 queens that we'll talk about, but,
Mhm.
or maybe 3. But I will say this. There was a shot. I was watching Espanya last night. I'm very lucky they send screeners. And there was a long shot of the judges panel, and there was only 4 judges, and you could see how tall the sound stage is, because the set behind them goes up so high and it's dramatic,
Mhm.
and they can't even dream of doing that on Down Under. It is so tight in that space that they're doing. And it's so tight that when the light is coming from the stage, this is so technical, but like if there's a production person on this, they will understand. You see the shadow of the guest judge
Yes,
going
yes, you
against the
do.
backdrop that is behind Michelle or behind Reese, and it's embarrassing. This is
You see the
not
shadow of the
professional.
queen on the back panel, actually. I saw that during the lip sync, and I was like, I've never seen that before.
This is not professional. Like, I don't know else how to say this. Like, every other country knows how to do this. And I'm sorry. Like, I like many of these queens. I've liked many of these Australian queens. I think Reese is actually a very funny
Hmm.
comedian. But at some point, blow it up. And there is nothing here that makes you like the queens came in and I was like, oh, I sort of like her. I sort of like her.
Yeah.
She's sort of good. And by the end of the episode, I was like, okay. Like
Yeah.
I listen, the easiest thing to figure out is the winner of this week's episode, Lazy Susan, who by the way is a Melbourne legend. She is incredibly well known. A good friend of mine. I keep saying good friend, name dropping. I have friends like who speak languages and from other countries. Imagine that. But a very good friend of mine from Melbourne, like immediately messaged if I'd watched because he knew who she was and she is beloved there. Her taste, she is far and above the rest. I think the
Right.
only other one that comes close is the Sydney Queen. Not Carniford. Was it Carniford? Maybe it is Carniford. Or no, Vibe.
Vibe.
Like a
Who the
Vibe is
first the
the
first two in, basically. Yeah.
yeah. Like those are the two that are like, it's, by the way, it's a very Kieran, in a way, it's a very Kieran Snatch Lavoie sort of thing, although Vibe is much younger than she.
Yeah. Well, when
Uh,
Lacey Susan walked in as the first queen in her yellow pantsuit look, I wasn't getting great vibes. Her entrance line, "I'm a drag queen," was like, okay.
yeah.
I got big Karen from Finance vibes, which if you've seen Down
Mm,
Under season one is not a good thing. But I will say, as the episode progressed, oh boy, did she absolutely stand out on there. Vibe comes, let's just go through the entrance looks real quick
yeah.
while we're at it.
Good.
Vibe comes in with a white Sunset Boulevard look. Very clearly, she and Lacey Susan get off pretty quickly. Nikita Iman comes in and says, quote, "It's Bussy." Great. She has a wet hair tropical island look. She knows Vibe, but Vibe doesn't know her, which is again a lot of young queens out there totally understand. Mandy moves, low key. Mandy moves. She had a pink pig look on, which a very detailed top and ears
Yeah.
and a wig, which I like. Nothing on the legs down, which I give her a doctor some points for, but overall I still kind of enjoyed it overall. Max Drag Queen, terrible name. I think she comes in, but she's apparently very well known as a stunts and tricks
Yeah.
queen, which is great. But also she kind of is like that seems to all she seems to be known for. She actually does okay on the runway. We'll get to that. Freya Armani comes in. She's in a yellow dress with kind of a silver booby one popping out moment, which I've never liked that single booby look. Whenever it's kind of like half exposed, that's just me. We have Olivia Dreams, who has some of the worst fucking makeup I've seen on an entrance look in some time. Like the eyes are all right, but then there's no contouring on the chin, and it's giving me man, and it's just like it just being honest.
No, please. I'm
Yeah,
gonna be worse. Keep going.
Brenda Breast comes in. Fun name to say. She has a nice like the hair bleeds into this hat look that she has going on, which I actually quite like. She's very much obviously going to be a camp comedy queen. Carna Ford. She is in an interesting look. She talks about how she's another dancing queen. Max clearly knows her. They're both very well
Hmm.
known dancing queens. She won 10K recently, and other queens that will say, "Well, did you spend any of it
Ooh.
on the entrance look?"
She
Uh,
won $10,000 at a
Ooh, I
contest.
know. My goodness. What is it? Was it hosted by Alaska? Was it in LA? Should
Uh,
we call everybody? And then we have Lucinia Innocence, who
yeah.
comes in. Her makeup and her voice weirdly give me vibes from etc. from season one. And everyone just notes how tall she is. And she actually has a weird bit of confidence as she comes in, which unfortunately is undone in the episode that follows.
I have so many thoughts on all the queens. The first thing I was going to say, the first thing is, besides that, as the episode goes on, you realize how talented Lazy Susan is very much. She reminds me of. She is in the vein of a Vicky Vanderpuss. Did I say that right? From
Vivian
Canada,
Vanderpuss
Vivian Vanderpuss,
from
Irma
Canada.
Gerd, a little Ginny Lemon from UK, a little bit, but more polished. But that feels like her vibe,
Like kind of
and
elevated camp a little bit.
elevated camp, but underground. Like there's an
Yeah.
underground aspect to her that we haven't really seen, to be honest, on UK. A little bit. I'm sorry, on Down Under, just a little bit. I actually liked Max a lot. I thought good television, beautiful queen.
Hmm.
The runway, not great, but they all suck. They all my we'll get to it, but as a tease, my one thought when I watched this runway is, did they get a week? Were they cast and had a week to come? Because that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
I did think so. The drama vibe and the thing with Nikita Aman, I thought was borderline eyebrow raising
Hmm.
because Nikita Aman is from the ballroom scene. She says that there is evidence of this. Like Nikita Aman is 27 years old. She's not a 21-year-old queen. She just hadn't been doing drag in Sydney. And Vibe's reaction to it was like overboard.
Yeah.
Also, very like, I'm not going to go there until we see more episodes, but there is just keep watching, I'm afraid. Um, but I thought that the rest of them were sort of forgettable, except there is something about Lucina Innocence when she is doing her confessionals. She is like how she talks, how she's experiencing the show. She may go home in another week or another 2 weeks. I have no idea. But she has this level of like, I don't know if it was to you, it was confidence. To me, it was a little like quiet,
Disconnection.
no sophistication. Like
Yeah.
she's very smart and she's very, but how she talked, I was like, oh my God, I sort of love her. Like I
Hmm.
sort of like I was like, oh, she could be if she goes when she was in the bottom, I was like, oh, she's gonna be Irene the alien to me. Like she's gonna be, I'm gonna want her to keep going. Also, I thought they were insanely critical for her through the whole episode. I
Right.
thought she looked great when she came in. They made fun of her for doing wigs. She made one of the other queen's wigs in the
Right.
workroom.
Right.
And that queen basically was like, not gonna really say anything. And I'm sort of obsessed. Also, she can't go home because we don't know how tall she is. Like someone
Right.
just give us how tall she actually is.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, I will say for a very first episode, they do have an interesting challenge, which is two different runway looks. They have to do a double reveal and then a double dip, where of the 10 queens, two of them were assigned the same color, and they're going to be judging who wore it better, which is kind of a fun thing. So let's dive into it. Double dips, double dressing. Uh, some not great choices all across the board, if I'm being honest here. First off, Mandy moved. She has red curtains into a black sparkle gown, which is basically the epitome of down under drag as we've seen so far. It is an outfit, certainly.
It
Uh,
is an outfit.
yeah, Lucinda Innocence has a terrible. She has this shapeless gold shower curtain that basically she kind of unfurls into. Oh, it's attached to my nipples, which is
Again,
again
a week. I feel like they had a week.
right. And the ask was that there was a dramatic transformation from one look to the other, which that one absolutely did not give.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Carna Ford, she goes from a Grace Jones garbage bag look that kind of turns into this black pink bodysuit thing. She has the flat top wig, which is great. I don't have as many notes for it. I don't see radical transformation though. Brenda Brest, she has this high camp pink evening gown look that turns into kind of a bland showgirl look, as we find out with Brenda. Bland showgirl looks is kind of her bag, so we'll probably see a lot more of that. There we go. Freya Armani, she has this oversized shoulder look that turns into an orange dress. It's not like the shoulder look which has no pants whatsoever. Like it's actually kind of the most dramatic transformation. I'm not sure if it's like the best look, but like I'm into it. Max Drag Queen, as you know, she has this weird park ranger kind of like pants look that then turns into this crocodile dress, which is actually quite nice. I thought it was actually pretty good. Olivia Dreams, she has this kind of reminds me of Ginger Johnson, kind of this crocodile pocket dress look that she has, and then it turns into this cheetah look that has a vagina face, and then the paws covering her boobs. That is kind of camp. Like it's the kind of thing of like, do I love it? No. Is it camp? Yes, I will absolutely give it credit. And then motherfucking Lazy Susan walks in and says, I don't care what any of y'all have been doing over here. She is a blue face kimono doll that turns around to reveal that she's actually a pink devil doll. The hands down best look that we've seen out of anyone who's ever been on Drag Race Down Under. Like she's so on a different level. It absolutely
Yeah.
knocks it out of the park. It was like, oh, okay, I see what you're bringing. It wasn't in your entrance look, but it's absolutely here. Holy shit.
Oh, by
And
the way, if you go on Insta, Angeria is on a tour in Australia, and she just posted today a video that she did together with Lazy Susan in that look. So she has the
oh,
Angeria, who's a global, as we've
cosign.
talked before, like the cosign, like the stamp of approval. But they know, they know.
Good. Good. Absolutely. And then last but not least, we got Nikita Aman. She's in a snake skin leaf peel kind of look that turns into a Polynesian dress. It's actually kind of a nice
I loved it.
contrast, except she just kind of dropped it. She just was like, and we're done. So like, and the judges kind of called her out for that, which I kind of agree with. And then Vibe has this circus hoop sky look that turns into this weird American Beauty shell look around her, and then just kind of
Yeah,
a corset that has flowers glued on it. Oh yeah,
it's
absolutely. For
terrible.
those in the podcast, Greg is going to get the thumbs down
Thumbs
because that
down.
is how
Terrible.
we felt. Anyways, now we get into double dip in. They're paired up. They have the same colors. So first off, it's blue. It's Mandy Moobs in kind of a blandish blue dress versus Lucinda Innocence, who's kind of in a sharp shoulder look with white 80s rocker hair. The judges give it to Mandy Moobs. I didn't love either of them, if I'm being fully honest.
I
I kind
also
of
thought
actually give it to
like
Lucinda. Yeah,
I thought they could have given Lucinia, and they're just like, no, we think she's weak. We're sending her like to the bottom. Like I just
exactly. That is, it just felt more
I thought that was
narrative.
a pre-narrative, preconceived, like we're going in this direction.
100%, absolutely. For red, it's Carnivore. She's in this actually quite beautiful red look with an inexplicable Demigorgon headpiece, which they rightly, and Sasha Colby, guest judge that she is, beautiful as she is, she's like, does that headpiece have any cultural significance to you? She's like, no, it's the Demigorgon from Stranger Things. They're like, ah, I see. So just kind of very mismatched. And then Brenda Brest has, again, a standard Vegas showgirl look. They give it to Brenda Best. It's tough because I actually like Carnifore's look outside of the headpiece. So I kind of understand why they read her a little bit for that.
I thought it was fine. I
Okay.
thought it was a mess. I don't know what to say.
All
I
right. So
mean,
yeah. So then we go
it's
into the
to be honest, all these runways, it's half a dozen of one, half a dozen of another. Like
yeah.
you could just have picked anything, to be honest, outside of lazy winning. Like it
Yeah.
was just that easy.
Yeah. We move on to gold, which is actually one of the better categories. So it's Freya Armani. She's in the kind of this fluffy pillow look with a long train, versus Max Drag Queen with this goddess warrior look. They're actually both pretty good. My
Yeah,
personal vote was for Max. I thought her
agreed.
warrior look was better. The judges were pretty evenly split on who won that one. God, then we get to purple. Olivia Dream, she's in this very ruffled look. It seems that there's like almost a tearaway element on the bottom of it, which
Yeah.
doesn't seem to need to happen. It was Sasha
Oh no,
Colby
it's
who's
for the tearaway is in case she had to do a lip sync.
right.
Yeah.
But I saw her on the runway, like, oh, it comes off, and it just felt very inexplicable. And also, Sasha Colby calls her out for being an Amazon queen. For it looks like it's pre-ordered, but also you didn't take it to a designer, which is like, and she's like, I'm an Amazon queen myself, girl, I understand, but you take it to the
Yeah.
designer to stone it, which very fair critique, I would say. And
Or to fit
then
it. I thought she also thought it wasn't fitted on her. I thought she thought
right,
it needed to be cinched or yeah.
yes, and then Lazy Susan with this purple flower look that covers her makeup and face. It's like, oh, okay. So, and I don't want to borrow things out of phrase, but truly the Frankie Wonga of the season, just
Yeah.
like smash the fuck out of this episode. Like, just like, oh, okay. So there's everyone else, and then there's this queen competing on this level. Gotcha. Like it
And
was spectacular.
and also during the critiques, Lazy does say that it is Lee Bowery inspired,
Hmm.
which is also a good like cultural reference. That if
Hmm.
that's her cultural reference, you should look at a couple looks of Lee Bowery because it's very hard to do Lee Bowery right
Correctly,
and not
right.
have it seem bad or and this felt like a good inspiration that wasn't 100% copying. I feel like oh my god, who's the queen? She's like been forgotten. Who's the one who like put the queen up on her shoulders and like she did a Lee Bowery that was really bad. That's in the scene with Shangela where Shangela throws the water on her. Oh, Mimi I'm
Oh,
first.
Mimi, I'm first.
Mimi
Yes,
I'm
yes,
first
yes.
tried to do, and that was like not good Lee Bowery.
Right.
Like, so it's nice
And
that
it,
15
it,
years later we get a good one.
exactly. And in the US seasons too, you've seen Queens do Club Kid adjacent,
Yeah.
Club Kid inspired looks on here. This is Lee Bowery is very specifically a more an elevated artistic form of it too, because it's so very clearly pushing absurdity to a realm of higher art
Yeah.
on there, and that's exactly what this felt like. So, I mean, anyone can Google Club Kid look and get their ideas and inspiration, but this was such a specific reference point that it made it all the better for it. So, as Michelle even pointed out, in the bag that she had lettuce leaves that were also the same print as her dress, like just next level of detail on there. This is where she comes in. Yeah.
But this is what's wrong with Down Under. Because until they finally showed a shot of that, you could not see any detail on that dress or that outfit until it got there because they just don't shoot it right. They don't, it's not lit correctly. They don't do any close ups that I was just like, I was like, oh, wow, this is great. Now, granted, there have been many outfits and dresses on many drag race seasons that have had incredible detail that you don't notice till they get in the workroom or they're under other lights. That's not something new. But this in particular was super egregious. Like, because if you were just a casual viewer, you'd be like, oh, okay, it's a printed outfit. Like, but you weren't seeing what the judges were seeing at all. And
Right.
that's bad. That's not good television.
Right. And it's tough to do because then on Orange we actually have looks that I felt like we got to see the full view of. So we have Nikita Iman in this beautiful sun crochet look. I'm like, oh, did you meet someone from Italia season 3 who loves crochet? I don't know. But it was actually quite.
You do not like Leela Yarn.
I
You are
love
a
her.
Leela
I
Yarn
love
hater.
her. She does one thing very well, and I love that she did it so boldly. I have mate. Don't let's get this narrative out of the way. I love what she did. And then we also have Vibe. She has this orange slice camp dress with edges. Judges loved it. I did not. I thought the
I thought
edges
it
on it
was
were very unfinished. I thought the fabric looked cheap, but they thought
I
I
was
gave her.
shocked that Sasha was so nice to her about it. I was like, oh wait, Sasha, have you worked with her before? Like, have you worked with her in Australia, like at a gig? Are you just
Right.
being nice? No, I'm
Yeah.
not. Sasha, I love. So I mean, I'm being facetious. But
Yeah.
I was like, I thought it was fine. I thought it was costumey, but it was slightly
Mhm.
draggy. Like
Yeah.
again, though, there was a close-up shot where you're like, oh wait, this. There's parts of it that are stoned that you can't tell from a distance. So maybe in person it really popped more. But
Hmm.
again, just bad camera work, bad
Yeah.
editing. You're not seeing this.
And to that point too, while we're talking about panelists, where we're talking about judging, we're talking about
Yeah.
casting on here. Isis Ava Loren, who certainly won season three, sure, why not? She was there and she looked gorgeous, but I don't think she had
No,
anything
she did
particularly
it. I'm
insightful to
sorry.
say. Right.
I thought she was wearing a bad like female like executive outfit. I thought her wig was fine. I thought she didn't light herself well for the makeup. I don't know. I was like
Yeah.
I was like, come on, Isis, you're the winner. I'm slightly confused. I the
Especially
episode
when you have
sets it up.
Sasha on the same panel, who clearly showed up and knew the assignment. I'm a winner. I got to
And
show
by the
off.
way, from what I heard, understand, Sasha did not know she was even going to be a judge until she'd already gotten over to Australia. And they said, "Hey, can you come over?" She was in the middle of a tour, and she's like, "Can you come over and do this?" And she just did it like on the end of her trip, or like took a day off or something and went off. And I'm like, if Sasha can do this, granted, Sasha is goddess, and like Sasha could
Understandably.
like win an all winter season or an all global winter season easily. But
8,000%.
but I said, girl, this is the premiere episode of the show, and they have made you a judge, and she may actually be like, I'm slightly confused. She may be a permanent judge. I'm just like, the press release made it sound like they'll be interchanging, but then they introduced her as the judge, and then said other queens would be coming in as guest mentors, and then also
Yes.
doing. But Isis is supposed to be, I think, semi-permanent. It's sort of
So,
confusing.
from my understanding of it, they are going to be rotating various Down Under queens
Right.
in that spot, and then they're going to have a guest judge as well. So it'll be two different things, but like next it might be your favorite Spanky Jackson. Next it might be Anita Wiglet. Next it might be some of the Kid Amin, some of those other queens,
Yeah.
and then there'll be that other chair that will be filled by whoever they get, Danny Minogue for the billionth time or whatever. Like they'll get
But
other, yeah.
I need to go back and look at it, but the press release makes it sound like ISIS is more than the other ones, which may be like, oh, this is your prize for winning. So maybe
Yeah.
in future seasons, whoever wins this gets to, if they want to, have this role. But
Actually,
ISIS didn't really bring anything, I
no, she
thought.
didn't. Which is why I hear she's being replaced by Art Naraya. Isn't that crazy? That's so.
Art would be on the first plane over. Um, I
Absolutely.
I do also say there was this interesting. I will give them credit. They're trying to set up storylines. Before we get to the bottom two and the lip sync and whatever. Obviously, Lazy Susan won.
Yeah, hands
It
down.
is
It was not even a contest.
from the entrance. They're doing that vibe Nikita thing, and vibe. I think sort of at the end. I think she says something where she gives Nikita credit for her outfits. Like Nikita ain't going anywhere. Like
Right.
Nikita is a talented. She's a queen who is a ballroom queen. She knows how to do drag. She's not doing the old school drag that some of these other queens are doing. But I have seen this storyline on Down Under before. And what I do not understand is they all these queens know how they are perceived on Down Under, how they know how Down Under has been received around the world. They know it's been how it's been received in Australia and New Zealand. And they come in and they do the same thing that
Every
makes
fucking
people
time.
frustrated. They
Yeah.
are too mean to each other. They are like they think it's shady and it's like over the line. It's like and they're out with knives from the beginning. And there's one thing if you're being like haha cute shady, but there's another thing when you're being drag Sethless, ready to like just take someone's heart out from the minute
Yeah.
they get on screen.
Right.
Like there I don't I'm confused. I'm very confused and I don't understand if it's a cultural thing, if it's the story producers pushing them. It needs a 60 minutes Australia investigation.
Hmm. And it's rough too because for anyone who hasn't watched or doesn't know why Down Under is kind of the shit can of the drag race international franchises, like it's never the drag has always been. I hate to use a rude term on here. It always feels so regional on there. They are
Hmm.
more comedy based, not even performance based, but more comedy based than anything else, and not even look based. And so it's been weird to see them in challenges. Only once in a while do you have a breakout star like Anita Wiglet and Hannah Conda, and what do you know? They're both really good at comedy. And then you on season one you have Art Simone who had a deal with Wow Presents prior, who gets eliminated very early on in her season, and when she's facing the mirror has that moment of just saying, "Well, doesn't it mean anything to you?" And she angrily says, "It means nothing." And then they bring her back for her to not win any challenges on her way to the top four. Like it always felt
But
so stilted and strange. Go ahead.
yeah. No, I mean, part of the problem with it is the producers who are producing it in New Zealand, and part of the problem with it is Stan.
Hmm.
Stan is, Stan has a lot of queer content on its network, but I don't even know a lot of Australians know this. It's entirely run by straight women. There's no major gay like executive at the top, straight or a gay cis man or even gay or even like um any like queer identifying in any way like who's part of these conversations. And the producer, this show, Down Under is probably the most effed up of all the seasons. The one of the main producers of New Zealand used to produce a club night that she was partners with Kid Amin and with Spanky Jackson. And imagine that. They won their
Hmm.
seasons. Like you can't, and by the way, the choice is ruse to make.
Right.
But they all know that this woman who's this female producer from New Zealand, like there's something going on here. And every season, everyone hopes, especially from Australia, that they're going to, the first excuse was, okay, we're shooting in New Zealand because of the pandemic. And then the second season was like, we're going back because Rue loved it. It's going to be better. No. Third season, there's no reason to go back. You're still getting money from the BBC, who's paying for this to be on the BBC Three. You're getting money from from Crave, who's paying for it to be in Canada. You have enough money for this show. Bring it to Australia. The pandemic's over. We can shoot it there. Better sets. No, they stay in New Zealand, and it's just. And I love New Zealand. I've been there. It's a great country, but it's like Drag Race Los Angeles County. Like I'm so I feel bad for the Australian queens.
Yeah.
Art Simone should be a revered star, and she's
Hmm.
still fighting for it. And people who know, like the other queens know, but it's just I don't know.
She's no Scarlet Adams. What can I say?
Oh, Scarlett. Oh, hell, give me Beverly Kills. Give
I'll
me
make
problematic Beverly Kills. At least
right.
she was funny and like gave good lip syncs and like
And
whatever.
hey, she had the narrative with Queen Kong that felt a little bit more genuine than some of the other narratives that we got too.
Yeah.
I will still never get over, for the record, while we're grinding about Down Under, fucking Karen from Finance, one of the best drag names you could possibly imagine, genuinely, truly, giving such a wimpy fucking effort on her season. At one point, they do the talent show number where it's just like, I don't know, Rue, I've never felt sexy in drag before. Well, you should try feeling sexy, and wears some thigh-high boots and does a balloon animal and walks off stage and is safe in her talent show. And it's like, what
I,
the fuck are we doing here? Truly.
the weird thing about it though is I've seen both Karen from Finance and I've seen Kidamine live. Kidamine did this tour across the US that Brooklyn Heights. It was called War of the Queens. Crystal from the UK was on it. There's a bunch of international queens with like some US ones. And Kidamine had a great number. She was really good. And I was like, oh, I get it now. Like she's
Hmm.
talented. She can really perform. I don't think she was a great drag race winner.
Right.
And I think Karen is actually a really funny. I've seen her perform as well, and she's very good live. Like I think she was at Precinct once, and she knows how to do a number, but she's not a great drag race winner. And
Hmm.
maybe that's better. Maybe that's good that they like give platforms to these. I don't know. It every year I hope for the best, and in I just I just feel bad for them all. I just feel like they're all their hopes. Like, in perfect example is they must have known Rue was not going to be the host before they walked in the room or before they landed in New Zealand. Because even if I was the most optimistic, positive, like loving queen, and I had spent all this money and energy to make all these outfits, to go to New Zealand, to be on Down Under, and they tell me in the workroom that Rue is not going to be here and that Michelle is hosting, I don't think my reaction would have been like, yay! Like they're so faking it, and they needed to. And by the way, it's not Michelle's fault. Like I thought Michelle
Hmm.
was fine. Like, but she was fine. She wasn't terrible. She wasn't great. She'll get better as she goes along. She's actually quite better she's good in the workroom. She's good to
Right.
like get things going. But it was just, you just, I just feel for them. And I don't think this season, from what we've seen, is going to change that narrative at all.
Absolutely. And the thing too is that I kind of feel bad because genuinely like we've seen Michelle do enough things, not just be on all the Rue seasons in the UK and Down Under before,
Yeah.
but also like she's done Queen of the Universe. She's done a couple other things as well, and she just has this very presentational way of judging right
Yeah.
now that feels almost like I don't want to say emotionless, but she's just so mechanical at this point that sometimes it's nice to see her in the workroom because there is such a genuine like heart and warmth there, and you hope that translates into everything else that she's doing because it's like I am genuinely excited that she's the judge. I'm hoping for good stuff going forward, but like it is kind of still stilted in a way. Like truly, it was. I mean, Reese is always good. He doesn't always have the best critiques, but he always knows a good punchline when he sees it, which I always appreciate there. But it was
He's
really
no
Sasha
Oscar. He's no Oscar from Drag Race
Oscar Man.
Mexico.
Oh no, Oscar Mandrazo. Oh, my
That's right.
favorite human. But he is. But genuinely, like, and then it was Sasha Colby who was delivering a lot of the better critiques over
Yep.
this episode. Truth be told, so I'm
I,
curious.
the
Yeah,
one criticism I will give Michelle, and because you made you actually nailed the point, is I remember thinking, oh no, she doesn't realize she needs to be the host here. She needs to not be judging here. Rue will judge, but it's partial. It's a partial judge. She lets the other
correct.
judges say, and then she might add one little thing or two. And again, it goes back to what we were talking about before with Pangina. Like too much judging from the host doesn't work. You have to. It's a balance, and I think Michelle's smart enough. She'll probably figure it out by the end.
Hmm.
But or maybe not. But the whole thing with them like judging it all sort of came off the rails when they were like paired in twos and they were judging them and picking, and we picked this, who do you pick? I was like,
What are we
it's
doing?
not that it's a bad idea, but it doesn't, there's no rhythm to this. It feels awkward. It doesn't even feel like you do this at a pageant. Like
Right.
I didn't get it. It was a
I, I
mistake.
I think one of the biggest criticisms that ever happened for Drag Race was U.S. season All Stars 3 when they have the jury of your queer peers. When all of a sudden it's
Yep.
the eliminated five that determine who is going to be the top two. The thing is that if that twist didn't work because the queens weren't told about it beforehand. Because if they knew that was how the top two was going to be determined, maybe they'd be a little bit more strategic in who they eliminate and other things like that. And here we have an instance where it's like, okay, so it's kind of like All Stars 1. Oh, so you have this runway package that you have, and now you're either matching with or competing against another queen, and you didn't know prior.
Yep.
It's hard to like it's who has the better outfit package. And again, as we kind of discussed as one of the I think more valid criticism of global all stars, sometimes it comes down to who has the most money on there.
Yep.
Like I still think Miranda Lebrau's point is just like sometimes you have to be more creative and fight for it. Like that was a great critique that came out of it too. And so here it's truly one of the things where I don't judge any of the queens for some of their looks, as underwhelming as they may have been by Drag Race standards, because I don't think they were given the fair shot when they're in this immediate, you're paired together randomly and have to compete against each other kind of thing. And it really seemed to be that was one of the more weighing factors of who was tops and bottoms for this episode.
I also thought that they didn't know there were multiple colors.
Right,
So they thought it was a gold runway or a blue runway. And they thought, oh, at worst, I'll be going up against seven other girls in blue. This is probably safe.
right.
They didn't realize that they had to like show out with this look. Again, it feels like I keep saying this, even from their entrance looks, I hope I'm wrong. It feels like they were given 1 week to get ready for this show. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope that that's not the case. Or maybe that's better that that was the case, because then it might explain, how they look through the season. But some of these girls were wearing outfits. I was like, oh, you pulled that out of your closet because it was a blue runway and you thought you could do it. Like it wasn't like the blue girls were said, okay, you need to do blue hashtag 5543, like, you need to do the right shade. Uh,
Yeah.
no, it wasn't that. I'm quite confident, but we'll see what happens. I listen. At least Spanky Jackson will give us Spanky Jackson drag when she shows up.
Yeah, but also I want to say that this also was a groundbreaking episode for another reason as well, because when they cut to the shots of the girls in the Untucked Lounge, Lazy Susan, the first confirmed queen in the entire Rooverse to be drinking a beer
Uh,
in the Untucked Lounge. Not a cocktail, not a mocktail, but an actual beer. That is true Australia right there.
wait. Are we sure it was beer and not like water, like water in those beer? Like, did they cover the company of the
No,
beer?
it poured into a glass, so at least you could see
Oh,
the
that's
color and
okay. I missed
texture of
this.
it during the
Okay.
one cutaway that we got where they were talking about her in the critiques.
See, the underground queen, like the
Exactly.
underground, like she's
Was it
given.
a Foster's? I don't know. Listen, if you happen to be Lazy Susan, again, worldwidetpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know.
She's given Brooklyn Drag 2012. She's given like Precinct first weekend opening Queen Kong,
Precinct
like
realness.
Precinct
Absolutely.
realness. Yes,
Hey, they have some good beers there, I will say. But
they
hey,
do. No, I
we have
love
a
Precinct. Are you? I'm an OG Precinct. Yeah, I
my
love Precinct.
favorite my favorite. We went to this pole dance night the other night. It was great.
Oh, very
By the
good.
way, so bottom two, lip sync, Carnivora versus Lucid Innocence. It is to the actually iconic song, our dear friend of Greg's, Troye Sivan, Rush. Man.
Wow. I mean, I'll say this. I thought Carna Ford has a line where she says, "I do this for a living. Like this is my thing." And I was like, "Well, thank God there's no tips in Australia because, girl, you are not a dancing queen. Like this song is actually not easy to lip sync
That is
because
correct. I would agree with that.
it has an awkward.
Rhythm.
It's beat. It feels like when you listen to it, oh, it's a dance song. It's fast. But when you try to dance to Rush, it's not an up tempo. It's not a traditional dance song like tempo.
Unless
And
you're doing the Rush choreography, because that
yes,
feels like it was fitted for it, genuinely, but it was so specific in its tone and tempo and nature. Yeah.
and this may be controversial. I thought if one of them was going home, I thought Lucina won the lip sync.
I
I
thought she did a
thought
little bit more. I thought she did a
I
little bit
thought
more.
Karna was a mess
Yeah. She was
and
just doing
could
tricks for the sake of tricks, which
yeah.
is never a good look.
Yeah, it was a little uh uh oh my God, from Miami from this past season.
Oh, Iman. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh my God, why are we forgetting her name already? She's so memorable. But it was a little that. It was a little
Maya
like
Iman DuPage.
Maya, like a little, yeah, to like doing the same thing again and again, and it felt like a little messy.
Of course, I always think about oh God, what was her name? Kyra versus Priyanka from season one of Canada,
Oh yeah.
when they did the Drive All Night lip sync. One of the top 10 lip syncs of international season, by the way. But hey, it's Michelle's first episode. It's a double save.
It's a double
Cool.
save. It's cool. I mean, I hope they knew that
Yeah.
they were both safe, that it didn't matter. But listen, we get one more week of Lucina Innocence, and I am excited. Like I don't,
Yeah.
or I actually I hope we get two or three. I'm not confident, but I hope we get two or three.
Absolutely. Well, hey, I will say though, even though I didn't love her entrance look over there, she won me over. If it's very early on to say who you think is going to win the season,
Yeah.
but my pick personally has to be Lazy Susan. If this is with the drag that she's bringing, I don't see how anyone else is going to compete, but we'll see.
I think Melbourne is going to win the crown 2 years in a row, and the Sydney gays will be quite upset because if you know anything, Sydney gays and Melbourne gays do not like each other. Like it is, if you think New York, LA is tough, if you think Madrid, Barcelona is tough, oh boy.
But who
Get,
gets more sweat tour dates? That's the real question.
that's the thing. Who gets more exactly? That's who gets more sweat tour dates. But it will be what it will be, and as it goes on, we should start making over under bets. Like, will this be the last season of Down Under?
Yeah, well, we'll see how it goes. I will say, at the very least, at the very top of it, when you saw that it was Sasha Colby, when you saw it was Isis Davis
Yeah.
that they had as a guest, I'm like, I think that they're trying. I really think they want to try and bring some eyeballs to it. I just think we'll see what kind of level it brings. But again, we didn't like the first episode of Thailand. We kind of thought it redeemed itself a little bit with the second one, and then fell apart in the third. We'll see what happens. We're not going to base an entire season off of one episode. We'll
But
see.
wait, you know how they could bring Sasha over? They're not paying for Rue to host. Their budget is they have more like they
Immense.
did you not notice they got more money for winning the challenge than they'd had any other season before?
Oh, I
Like,
didn't even clock that. That's great.
yeah, I will double check, but I am 99% sure they got more money than they ever had before because they're not paying Rue. Like they could have used that money in so many ways.
Including a bigger set, but
A
that's
bigger
its
set.
own thing.
Yeah.
But hey, that is 4 seasons of Drag Race that we talked about
Yep.
before. But we're not over yet. The one thing we want to talk about at the end of every episode, of course, we want to highlight an international queen, Rue Girl or No, who deserves some love. So Greg, I'm going to pass it over to you. Who do you got on your list for this week?
So I had to do it just for the children
Spanky
who are
Jackson.
listening. No. And she was mentioned earlier. It is the legend, and she is an international queen. She has toured all over the world, and performed at Europe and Australia and in Asia. Is the legendary Miss Coco Peru. If
Yes.
you don't know who Coco Peru is, the easiest way to figure it out or to learn about what her comedy is like is go to YouTube, go to Coco's channel, And her most popular video at the moment is Coco Peru goes to Target. And in full drag, Coco will go to Target. She's also done Coco Peru goes to Cost Plus World Market. Well, she will tell you how the Cost Plus World Market name is confusing because she sometimes thinks it's Cost Plus. She sometimes thinks it's Cost Plus Market, but the world part confuses her. And then and almost ironically, and most of these videos were done about 10 years ago. And which horrifies me now is while many millennials discovered Coco through these YouTube videos from 10 years ago or 7 years ago, it became a thing. Like Coco got a little popular that way. Is Gen Z has no idea who she is because she hasn't made many so they'll be like, who the hell is Coco Peru? And I was like, oh my God, that's how old I am. Is these videos are 10 years old and they don't know it. It's like them not knowing the like grab them by the pussy thing, like from Donald Trump. And she just did one where Coco Peru goes to Aldi, which I the store. I don't know what it is, but that was up 4 weeks ago, and it looks quite funny. And also, already has over 100,000 views. She has a fan base. If you are ever, she does. I'm pretty sure she does. I think she still does Provincetown. Sometimes she might, but she tours half the year, and she is always funny. She's always contemporary. She will never think like I'm seeing an old drag queen performance. She will make you laugh in a very contemporary way, in a very sometimes old school way. And if you've never seen the 90s gay rom classic Trick, she has a pivotal role in that and is quite funny. Watch Trick. There's a lot of gay like movies from the 90s that are quite awesome that we've sort of lost. That don't, it's, if you love Heartstopper, like, oh, let me tell you, you want to see a better movie than Heartstopper. But anyway, Coco Peru, you can find her on Instagram. And by the way, she is a kind queen. And I sort of mentioned that before. She posted, she doesn't always post to Twitter. She posted something on Twitter or Instagram where she thanked Chanel for impersonating her. And
I saw
she
that.
did a very good job. She didn't have to do that. But her instinct is she is not I'm a shady queen. She finds funny and she's a situational comedian. And that's how she finds her humor. But I love her and she's the best. And it's always, whatever the price is, it's worth the ticket.
Absolutely. And again, I think it's the thing too, where anyone listening, there is so much more drag history, even if you're not in the universe. Look up Jackie Beat, look up Sherry Vine, look up R.A.P. Heclina. There's so many great queens that have come.
Find a video of Lip Synca and you'll be blown away.
Absolutely.
If you've never seen a Lip Synca video, you will be like, wow. It will make you realize that all the other lip syncers after her are just pale imitators. Like incredible.
100%. And so my pick this week is a non-Ru girl, but she's kind of in the universe though, because I'm excited for season 5 of Canada's Drag Race, and there's at least 2 Nor contestants that come from one of those offshoot shows of the drag universe called Call Me Mother. Which ran in the UK, hosted by famously hot Dallas Dixon. And it just was great because we had Crystal, we had Barbados, and we had Peppermint from the US seasons, all competing. Essentially, it was like theater kids putting on a show kind of vibes over there. And they had mentors. They had Brooklyn Heights drag mother on there, Fahrenheit, to kind of guide them as well. And most importantly, they had an incredible wig stylist who has also gone on to become a designer for several queens over there, who I want to highlight today. And that is Lucinda Mew. She is a wig stylist. She is a designer. She is a drag queen on top of everything there. And outside of doing Call Me Mother, outside of hosting her own show called So Fierce, she's also designed looks for the likes of Shalazan LaRue, Boa, Priyanka, and also Van Gogh, who is one of the top queens who does a lot of other Canadian related things as well. She's really fun. The thing I love is that when you look at her social, she actually doesn't just show you the looks that she makes for other queens. She shows you exactly how much effort went into some of those looks, and some of the looks are like very basic, but she puts together in like 60 minutes, and she just shows you the process of how to do it. It's very instructional, very fun. I'm very happy for her success, and I hope that she's on television again someday, because she's a fantastic explainer of things, and I think that's one of my favorite things. So Lucinda Mew, I'm going to put that up there with Miss Coco Peru. I think those are some excellent choices for this week.
To be honest, I never had a chance to watch Call Me Mother. I think you had to get Here TV to watch it in the US.
Oh, Out TV.
Illegally. Out TV.
It's such a pain in the ass signing up for that goddamn service, let me tell you. But we did, out of Canada, we got Kiki Ko. came out of. She's one of the graduates over there who we met at DragCon last year. Was an absolute sweetheart, truly. Another amazing design queen as well. And in this new season, at the very least, Sanjaya Debish Queen is another graduate from there. And there's one other one who I'm forgetting out the moment, but they're also going to be on future Canada Drag Race seasons. So
Oh,
we'll
freaking
see.
awesome.
Yeah,
And by
it's
the way,
just
that's the perfect, I was just gonna say that's the perfect tie-in to next week. We expand to 5 ongoing series. But we're back to 5 with Canada's Drag Race.
I'm
And
actually really excited for it. I'm not gonna
yeah,
lie. Yeah.
super excited. You know, I will say this, Brooklyn will always look fucking great. And she has so much pride in what she looks like on the runway. I'm super excited about that. And you know, my fellow entertainment journalist, Tracy Melcher, like
Mhm.
she's getting better, better. It's incremental. Like sometimes she gets a little better. I'm excited.
Yeah, I will say it's the kind of thing where season 3, when she was guiding the queens through the makeup product challenge that she did, and she was directing them, was actually some of the most engaging that I've ever seen her do,
Yeah.
which was fantastic. So there are moments over there. It will always be my favorite season for the judges constantly psychically acknowledging who the winner of any given lip sync is. Truly the best
Yes, the
moment we could ever imagine. But I'm excited for it, and most excited, I'm excited to record another episode with none other than Greg over here. Thank you so much as
can't
always
wait.
for your insight and tea and wonderful joy that you bring to this podcast.
Thank you all for listening to our extra long episode.
Yeah,
We trust us next week for a variety of reasons. It might be shorter, but fingers crossed we'll be in a good mood. We'll have something to celebrate. And if not, hey, listen, Drag Race is going to get us through whatever's going to happen the next 4 years.
100%. Absolutely. And so with that said, if you haven't already and you're hearing this, please go vote. And in the meantime, we will see you next week. Thank you as always.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Take care. Goodbye.